Welcome to Gear Check Games. We're doing this. Today we're going to talk about the recently released and much anticipated Sonic the Hedgehog theatrical movie from Paramount Pictures. I'm Joe. As per usual, I'm joined by my good pal Trey, but not Dan this time because he didn't want to watch this movie. Or
he hates movies.
Yeah, I guess. But thankfully,
money.
We have replaced him with two guests from playthroughs from last year. Ethan from the Sonic 3 and Knuckles playthrough, say hi.
Hello.
And Nick from the Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door playthrough, as well as a couple others.
I'm still around.
I like to think someone's like, oh, not the Nick guy from Thousand Year Door, no.
Not that guy.
I mean, it's not
But
me.
wait, he was in other things.
But yeah, so before we get too sidetracked, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, I guess, you know, there are probably a quintillion videos on the internet talking about, like, the background of this movie. So I don't want to get too much into that here, but I guess, what were your gut reactions, everybody, when the movie was first unveiled with that infamous original trailer? Why don't we start with Trey?
It got an eyebrow raise from me because I'm not like one of those people who's gonna like have a oh my god they ruined it reaction, but I was like
me.
that's really the art choices they're going for. All right, good luck.
So, if we're just talking trailer, I like not any of the teaser images before it. I was in love with the use of Gangster's Paradise. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. My big gotcha on that trailer was, like everybody else, that the design was a bit iffy. But I was interested.
Oh, okay. When I heard there was going to be a Sonic movie, I was like, all right, you know, that can work. If they do it right, it could work. And then I saw the design, I was like, I don't know about this. I was kind of like, I don't think this is going to be good. Because, you know, there's the stigma of every video game movie is bad. And I feel like there's just going to be another one of those.
Yeah, well, for me, it wasn't even like the video game movie stigma. It looked like Alvin and the Chipmunks or something, like that kind of Hollywood adaptation where it's just like, here's a thing that you've seen before, or like a brand that you recognize applied to this really generic, safe movie with all of these like known actors and product placements, like made pretty cheaply apart from like the visual effects of the main like mascot character. So, and then on top of that, the original design was
what you're
hideous.
saying is it looked like Chip.
You cut out for me. I'm sorry.
I said. So what you're saying is it looked like Chip.
Yes. Well, see, like, I guess to kind of give a little background, if you haven't seen the Sonic 3 and Knuckles playthrough, I would consider myself a pretty big Sonic fan, like, of the games. Like, not even just the really well-regarded Sonic games. Like, I'm a fan of the Genesis games, their adventure games. I like the Boost era, like Unleashed style games, and I even have a soft spot for Sonic R, but don't tell anybody.
All right, Trey, get ready because I'm about to ask you to edit something in. So,
God.
There are Sonic fans, and when I say that, please put up a picture of, like, Sonic Underground or Sonic X or something, and Sonic fans, and when I say that, put up a picture of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And Joe is a Sonic fan. See Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You don't have to edit any of that.
Okay, so just cut past all of this.
This is a great round table, let me tell you.
So you before we get too deep into it, should we address the product placement, like
Within the movie, or
within the movie, because it wasn't like there was only like one jarring bit to me.
well, to be fair, the entire movie was a product placement.
That's true.
Yeah, it's for Sonic
And as
TriStar.
far
Have
as
you had
and,
your
you know,
chili dogs?
That that's not something that I inherently object to. Like, I was honestly like, I saw this movie on Valentine's Day. Yes, laugh it up. But I didn't see it alone.
Yuck,
I had a friend along.
Yuck.
Romantic.
there weren't-
Wedding.
It wasn't packed, but there were a good number of people in the theater. Most of them were like families with younger kids, and the kids seemed to really have a good time with the movie. In fact, there was one very, very cute little kid who was running around after the movie was over with his arms out behind him. Yes, at the speed of sound.
Aww, that is cute.
So like in terms of like a product play, like I am happy to see a Sonic product come out that, you know, the target audience is like genuinely enthusiastic about. So, you know, if this movie has to be in the service of promoting a product, I'm glad that it's promoting, well, something that I would like to think is good, but, you know, there is a lot of evidence to the contrary of that with the Sonic series. Unfortunately.
So, would you say it's about that time that we render our opinions on the movie as a whole?
Yeah, it seems like a natural time to segue. Actually, before we do, I kind of gave a little bit of my background with Sonic. Why don't you guys briefly touch on your history with the series, or how you came to love Sonic, or
Same
didn't?
order as per usual.
Yeah. So when I got into Sonic as a wee lad, I got into it first watching the original show, the infamous one with Long John Baldry and Urkel.
The Adventure.
Yeah, the Adventure one. But then I never owned a Sega. I was a Nintendo kid, but I remember playing hours of it every time we would go to McDonald's. They had like a little Sega setup.
Right.
I would just play the crap out of Sonic 2, so that's kind of like my intro. I'm not like I'm slowly becoming a fan of Sonic per your guys' like ushering. But yeah, that's how I got into Sonic.
So
I loved Sonic Sat AM a lot as a child. It was one of my favorites. And then as a slightly older child, say 11, 12, I fell in love with Sonic Underground. Hence why I have a YouTube channel called Manic the Nobody. The Nobody bit is a Kingdom Hearts thing. Stay tuned for that. But so my history with Sonic is largely from these like super schlocky early 90s shows, which I love with all my heart. And the games I didn't start really playing the games until later. The first Sonic game I actually proper played was Sonic Advance, which is, you know, Sonic 1, but on the Game Boy Advance. So yeah, that's me.
Nick,
So-
would you say you're more of a Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine kind of guy? Honestly,
I love Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
okay, just wanted to get that out in the open.
Yeah.
So when I started, you know, all my friends had Super Nintendo and all that. You know, me and an uncle had the Super Nintendo and Nintendo, but in our house we had the Sega Genesis. So to me, I grew up with Sonic. I didn't really grow up with Mario. So I mean, I remember we had Sonic 2 all the time. So we constantly played Sonic 2. I think we beat it like once or twice back then. Because I mean, that game's not easy, especially when you're younger. But you know, I kind of. You know, I grew up with Sonic. I was the Genesis does what Nintendo kind of kid when I grew up. So I was just kind of, Sonic was kind of my childhood hero back then. So that's just kind of how it worked.
Yeah. As he kind of was for a lot of kids growing up in the 90s. And I just wanted to talk about this stuff because I want to make it clear to the audience. I don't think any of us went into this movie hoping it was going to, you know, we all like Sonic to some degree. We weren't going in to like hate watch it or anything to that said, I think now is probably the time, you know, that we're nearly 10 minutes into this video, to actually start sharing our general spoiler-free thoughts about the movie. I'm guessing that most of this recording will be spoiler heavy, but we're going to try and get our general opinions out first, just so, you know, anybody who wants to see the movie but hasn't had a chance to can go in with a fresh mind. So I guess I'll start. I thought it was very average. I didn't hate it, but I think it frustrated me more than I was like, because I think there are elements of this movie that I thought were good and could have been kind of like molded into something better. but I also, it was exactly, in the end, it was exactly the movie that Paramount probably wanted it to be, like a very, very standard, safe movie with a known brand attached to it, that, satisfies its audience, i.e. children. And, in my experience, the movie succeeded, but as, for a fan of film, I don't know if you'll find much in this movie that is exceptional or interesting, unless you just want to see Sonic on the big screen having a rollicking good time or what have you.
So, I like that it was, because I'm kind of the opposite of Joe on a lot of these things.
We're slowly discovering this.
Yeah, I thought it was a very comfortable, like you said, it was safe. Like, it was definitely safe. But I liked that the cast was small, and I liked that the adventure was... It was very much an introductory story, because, like, you can tell that there's going to be a sequel. Like, they paint they paint very broad strokes with that, especially with the ending.
There's stuff, there's stuff in the trailers that alludes to a sequel, so...
Yeah. But what I really, really enjoyed, just first impressions, was just the characterization of Sonic. He is incredibly likable and adorable in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
And I would chalk that largely up to their casting decisions, which they made some good ones for this movie. My general opinion on the movie, get ready for a pretty big shift in a direction. I loved this movie. There were very few moments during it that I wasn't smiling.
Yeah.
And most of the moments when I wasn't smiling was because I was crying near the end for reasons that I'll talk about later. The only thing that didn't fully live up to my expectations was, and this is a very unpopular opinion, Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's performance in the early parts of the movie, I wasn't in love with. It got much better later on, but early on, I was very meh on it.
Mm-hmm.
Overall,
I don't know if you're in the minority. I'm inclined to agree with Carrey's performance. I thought it was just kind of the usual sort of character that he plays in movies. I.e., like he had some of the traits of Robotnik down pretty well, but not like the character as a whole. I think.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more for me at least to discuss about this in the after the under the cut section.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Anyway, Ethan, why don't you go ahead?
I think playing it safe is a good idea. I think overall, I'm going to say it's good. It's not great. My biggest fear coming into this was, please, I love Sonic. Please don't screw it up. Please don't screw it up. And I feel like they didn't screw it up, like you all said. They did play it safe, but I feel like they did just enough to be good. I say it's a little bit better than all right. It's good. It's not great. I kind of like how they made Sonic kind of more of a child preteen character, kind of a little more immature. One of my worries was it was going to be that like attitude way past cool thing we've seen, and him just kind of being like rebellious. But I kind of like the whole idea of he's at that point he's still a child, and he's in the movie he's doesn't have any friends at the start, and he's alone, and it really makes him feel more like human and more like relatable. And you were talking about Jim Curry, not Jim Curry.
Jim Curry.
The spicy
How
version.
do
Brother
you
of Tim Curry.
You met my faithful Agent Stone.
Anywho, before you lose your train of thought.
Anyway, Jim Carrey, my biggest fear was, and I know most of you have probably seen Batman Forever, and my problem with that, with him and that, is he's not the Riddler, he's Jim Carrey playing the Riddler, and I thought it was going to be... It's not Robotnik, it's just Jim Carrey playing Robotnik. And I feel like there was some of that there, but they really did... It wasn't, like, completely over the top like it is in Batman Forever. It was very... They had that, like, crazy, egotistical bad guy, and they really did a good job building a character that you'd love to hate. They didn't build him a villain that's like, oh my god, get off my screen. They did a really good job of... Like, here's someone you love to hate, but it's still entertaining to watch. And I feel like they did a really good job balancing that. He's a little nuts, but he's not to the point where he's annoying.
I say, it took them a little bit to find their footing in the movie. I feel like the early few scenes, while they were entertaining, were far more Jim Carrey than they were Robotnik. But then the further on you get into the movie, the more you know, the less that is a concern.
Well, I will say, I think he looks good in the costume, or at least the costume looks good. This isn't really a spoiler because this was in like the original trailer. When they had the old design of Sonic, but at a certain point in the movie he does don like the actual Robotnik, bald like red flight suit with the goggles and the big mustache. Appearance, and like he looks good in that.
I do kind of like how it starts out. He's just kind of a normal, like not normal, but he's crazy, but he's looks normal, humanish and all that. And then like as more and more the movie goes on, he gets more and more crazy, more and more. He starts turning into that Robotnik that we all grew up with. Until the very end, where I don't want to say it now, you've seen it in the trailer where he's full out, like fully realized, has the bald head. And he's finally transformed into that crazy. He's Eggman at that point.
Yeah, I liked that they took their time with that because like I said earlier, they're definitely building to sequel territory, but like
God, I hope so.
They definitely endear
as is every movie nowadays.
Yeah, they definitely endear you to these people and get you invested in them. And while I was watching this movie, I was like, is this just the Joker, but with Robotnik? We're slowly watching a man lose his mind.
I would like to take a quick aside and say that I don't really think that it's that much of a problem that most movies are aiming for, multi-movie. I think that's just the way of things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it leads to good movies, then fair enough. It's just kind of, I don't know, just something about the inherent, I guess, marketing strategy of that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like focus on making one good movie first, and then, if it's well received, plan on a sequel. Don't have the sequel planned out before you even know if people are... Because, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of the... there is some sequel baiting in this movie, and I'm assuming a lot of that was in the original script, if not all of that, before they did the tweaking with the Sonic design and everything. So, if they had decided to stick to their guns and not redo the design, do you think this movie still would have been a success and people still would have, wanted a sequel?
No.
If the script was exactly the same, everything played out exactly the same, the only difference was that it was the old design, I think that I still would have liked it about as much. Maybe a little bit less, but I think that I still would have enjoyed it.
I think you... I think you would have had, if you kept the old design, you would have had that perception of, oh, it's a horrible design, I don't want to see it. I think too many people would have said that. I don't think it would have been successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, because I'm guessing a lot of this movie's success has to do with, young kids wanting to see, I don't think it's realistic to say that, people thought they went to watch the Sonic movie and that made millions of dollars. No, that's just not realistic.
Yeah. I think that the majority of people who went to see this movie went to see it out of genuine interest.
Yeah, I can't see, I can't see, with that said, I can't see little kids going to see a movie like this with a character. I don't even know if I was a kid I would recognize that as Sonic the Hedgehog, because it, as we've said, and as literally everyone else on the internet has said, it is just ghastly to behold.
But Joe, you gotta remember, we grew up with Bob Hoskins as Mario and Jake Gyllenhaal as the Prince of Persia.
Well,
I think that stretches can be made.
But there's stretching it, and then there's something that's actually visually unappealing, even if you've never seen the source material before.
Fair enough.
And I do wonder, because I read on the ever reliable Wikipedia today that the second Sonic movie trailer, the one where they debuted his new design, has the highest like to dislike ratio of any movie trailer released in the history of YouTube. So I wonder if that is what is, because we're a couple days into the movie's theatrical run at this point, and the movie has already outperformed Detective Pikachu. It is currently the best opening of a video game based movie in history.
I will say this, that It does not hit a home run. I will go out and say that. It does not hit a home run, but I think it focuses more on like just making sure you hit it because, there's, like I said, the stigma of bad video game movies. They wanted to play it safe. They wanted to make sure that, let's get it right first, and then we can build in the next movie. And that's what I feel like. So that was my big problem with like the Super Mario Bros. Movie in the '90s. Was it feels like they were trying to reinvent the wheel and make it like this Blade Runner world and all this weird stuff. All this weird stuff, and it feels like they just swing and miss. They just swing and miss on it. Where the Sonic movie really was okay. This is something people really like. Let's not screw this up. Let's play it safe. Let's get what people want, and I feel like that's what they did. And I'm happy for that.
So, I will disagree on it not being a home run. More on that under the cut.
Well, as far as playing it safe, I feel like we should kind of go into a little detail about what that means. Because for me, playing it safe, Sonic, the games and like the brand as a whole in the last decade, I would say, has, with a few exceptions, been playing it very safe in terms of basing the appeal of the games on nostalgic elements. Like we've had such a huge resurgence of like Genesis era imagery and iconography. Like every new Sonic game now has like Green Hill Zone, classic Sonic, even where it doesn't really belong.
Just to clarify, when you say brand as a whole, you are just talking about games, right? Because I have two words that are the antithesis to everything
Sonic
you're
Boom
saying right now. Archie Comics.
Archie.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Later.
Well, okay, but anyway, I'm getting a little bit off track. But when I say playing it safe, I'm referring to playing it safe as a film, and not necessarily playing it safe in the way that the Sonic series has been for the past decade, although there is some of that. Again, as you've probably seen if you've watched any of the trailers. But yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Ethan. I was when I first saw that trailer, I was, Trey made fun of this earlier, but I was one of the people who was kind of like, this looks like the worst thing ever. And not because the movie looked like the worst thing ever, but because it was like, Sonic has just had so many embarrassing pieces of media in like throughout his history, and it's just this ever-growing pile of terrible things that anyone who's not super familiar with the more positive aspects of the franchise can just immediately point to and be like, this character is not good, this brand is not good, like this is not something that deserves your time. And God, I don't know why I sound like I'm getting choked up here.
Well, I mean, like I
I'm
understand.
very passionate about Sonic.
I understand. But I understand getting choked up back. It's like with me, I grew up with Sonic, so to see a whole generation of kids being like, Sonic's never been good. To see that, that just breaks my heart a little bit. So that's what I liked about this movie was, there was a bunch of kids, it was mostly kids in my theater, which made me feel out of place a little bit. But hey, you're never too old to love something, so.
You're right.
And so.
Well,
when I got out of the movie, most of the children there enjoyed it, and then they had a display where it was Sonic shoes on a table. And there was there was kids like wanted to take pictures of it and all that stuff, and it was like it felt so good for me being someone who grew up with Sonic for so long to see a younger generation, be happy about Sonic, to actually celebrate Sonic. It was like this movie did its job, and I'm glad for that.
It was kind of surreal, honestly. But yeah, it was just like I saw that initial trailer and I was just like, Sega, they approved Shadow with a gun. They approved Sonic and Elise kissing. And that game in the glitchy, broken state it was as a whole. They approved Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric. Another glitchy, broken game. They approved the Werehog. They approved Sonic in medieval times with a sword. Like, all of these things that people, who don't care about Sonic or, the good Sonic games can just immediately point to and be like, see, this franchise isn't good. Look at all these bad things he's been in. This Sonic is a joke. And, the cherry on top of the sundae is going to be the realistic Sonic design from the Hollywood movie that everyone, not just fans of the games, but everyone is going to have to look at and, be aware of. I was just so disheartened by that. Like, Sega, you... What are you doing?
I gotta say, we're about 25 minutes into the video, and I think that our sponsors might be getting a little bit antsy.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you
Well,
think
in that case, we
maybe it's
can.
around the time that we render a verdict.
Yeah. Again, I thought it was very average. It wasn't a hit for me, but again, it probably or in my experience, it has satisfied its core audience. Hopefully, if they do make a sequel, which they probably will, it is an improvement. Although personally, I would have to give it a pass in the end. But I think Ethan's made a good point about like this was good for the Sonic brand to kind of have a win, even if it was like a small win.
Yeah. I think the fact that they dialed everything back and kept it very narrow and, of course, changed the art style. I think Sega and Paramount did themselves a huge favor, and the world a favor, by not subjecting us to that ugly-ass design.
Yeah, you do have to... I know they did it, like, every corporate decision is motivated by money.
Yeah.
But you do have to admire the fact that they did listen to feedback, and they didn't, like, force the animators to crunch. At least that's what the report is, that, they gave them enough time, they delayed the movie... Then they gave the animators enough time to get the new animation done and do it well. And they succeeded. Like, I think Sonic if you've seen the trailer, like, he looks great. Like, they probably couldn't have done it much better than the way they did, where he's, it's tweaked, but it's clearly based off of his iconic design with appropriate photorealistic detail so that he fits in with live action environments and characters.
Yeah. I would say
anyway.
my final reaction is it felt less like a video game adaptation and more like a family movie adaptation.
Smurfs?
Well, not as gratuitous. It wasn't like, to me it wasn't like a meme kind of movie. It was just more of a feel good movie, like something you could take your kids to. Take your grandma to go see Sonic.
I feel like my final verdict on it is don't run, walk. That's what I'm gonna say. Which I know sounds weird for Sonic, but actually that's kind of the joke I was making there. So, but I mean, like I said, I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I think if it's for a family movie, I think your kids will enjoy it. If you're a big Sonic fan, it's worth seeing. Just kind of keep your expectations realistically here, because it's not this super epic Avengers like action-packed Sonic movie. It's it's a family movie. You come in with that idea, it does what it needed to do. I feel like.
God, run, don't walk. I wish I'd have thought of that.
My final take.
Well, I said walk. Don't. Did I say run, don't walk?
Walk, don't run. Oh my God,
Yeah,
Ethan,
I
I've
said walk,
embarrassed
don't
you,
run.
actually.
I've
embarrassed myself and you.
I've embarrassed us all.
Everyone's botching
My
tonight.
final take
As is tradition.
is go see this movie, because if they don't make a sequel to this movie, I am holding each and every one of our listeners personally responsible, and I will come to your house and cry. So go
All
watch
26
the movie.
of them
I really
on a
liked
good
it.
day.
It was very good.
So, are we about to jump into spoiler territory?
Yeah, I think it's about time for some spoilers. Like I said,
It's spoiler season.
it's nothing too crazy. Like, if you've seen the trailers, you know what you're in for. For the most part, I would say most of the stuff that's like a surprise is stuff that you're probably going to only appreciate if you're a Sonic fan. But apart from that, I think we've covered our general opinions, and let's do some spoilers. But first, it's important to pay due credit to our sponsor, Olive Garden.
All right.
Use promo code GCG to get 50% off your next breadstick. Spoiler time!
Okay, I just have to be very clear. It's not 50% off the cost. You still pay full price. You just only get half the breadstick.
Get half a breadstick!
What is 50% off a breadstick? $1?
It's all you can eat free breadsticks, I thought.
free.
So it's like 50% off
Well,
nothing.
yeah, if you eat in, it's all you can eat. But if you're getting takeout, then you gotta pay for it. It's like
that's where they get you.
$7 for like 24 breadsticks.
Why do you need 24 breadsticks?
Because I'm hungry for bread, Ethan.
Well, if you use
and garlic
promo
on them.
code
Well, if you use
GCG
if you use-
for 50% off your next breadstick. Thanks for listening, everybody.
that's 12
you want to talk
breadsticks.
spoilers? Ethan, I don't want to know where you learned to do math, but that is not adding up in my head.
So should we just
So-
start off with the first scene, how they showed kind of the little Green Hill Island zone, whatever that is?
Well, that wasn't the first scene technically. The first
technically.
scene, and okay, you know what? I need to I need
yeah.
to set the scene here for my theatrical
That's right.
experience because I went and saw this with my my best friend here in town, my buddy Mike, whom I've mentioned and who watches our show. Thank you.
Hi, Mike.
we need all the views we can get. We go to this theater that is like a locally owned theater, and that was part of the reason why I justified paying to see this movie because I wanted to support a local business.
How shrewd.
There you go.
However, this theater is 30 minutes from my house, and we were also getting dinner before the movie, and the dinner was taking a long time, just to get out, and we ended up leaving with not enough time to make it to the theater in time for the trailers. So by the time we got there, the movie had already started, and we missed all the trailers. And the first thing I saw was a freeze frame of Sonic saying, "That's me. You're probably wondering how I got myself into this situation." And I was just like, "Oh, okay. I guess this is the kind of movie I'm in for."
You missed about 1 minute of
Yeah.
content before that.
Okay,
but
I'm
you
guessing
then-
there's some action with Robotnik.
It's
chasing
literally
him
the
through.
same scene that plays later on in the movie when he
Yeah.
says, "And so that's how I got here. I bet you're wondering how it ends." Me
Wait,
too.
like the same exact footage?
Yep.
I'll be
Yeah.
damned. So yeah, but that's not as funny because Trey was gonna start talking about the Green Hill scene because after that, we get Sonic explaining his backstory where he's in the real Green Hill zone,
Yeah.
the computer generated version, which is really well done. I
Yeah.
love
Oh,
the
yeah.
way. Kind of reminded me of the way it looks in Generations, where it's
Yeah.
recognizably Green Hill, but it has all of this nice photorealistic detail to it to kind of sell it. And
Yeah.
Sonic is. We see the ever marketable baby Sonic running around, and he's
man.
got this mother figure kind of shaman like character
Yeah.
who's like an anthropomorphized owl.
She's an owl. Out of
Long
curiosity,
Claw.
is Longclaw a Pindersverse creation, or is she original for this movie? Anyone know?
She's from
I
the
would say
OVA.
99% sure she's.
She used to be a guy.
Okay, wasn't that owl, Trey?
That's a very different owl.
Show the picture of that owl with the sunglasses from the OVA.
Wearing
Yes,
Sonic's favorite clothes.
Everybody knows the owl, Ethan. But yeah, Nick, it's interesting you bring that up because that was what I thought. I knew it was probably an original character for the movie, but it does kind of have, or she does kind of have that look to her where, the old comics kind of had some characters that looked like Sonic and others that looked more. They were anthropomorphized animals, but in a different art style. And she, I don't know. I thought that was a nice nod. This whole
Yeah.
opening scene, I'm thinking, was probably a reshoot after the initial response to the design, or not a
Yeah.
reshoot, obviously, because it was all animated, but it was probably heavily altered as a result of the backlash to that initial trailer because it does feel.
Could you imagine OG Sonic design just shrunk down and smaller in the exact same
Well,
Kill it with fire.
Long Claw is probably like a remnant from that because she doesn't look the way that Sonic looks. They probably were
Yeah.
like, well, this isn't a character that people recognize. It's okay for it to be.
Yeah.
And it was a character that was created from scratch to look
Right.
like that. It wasn't
Yeah.
a character that was designed to look like Mickey Mouse, given
So-
the proportions of just a guy
Here's my
with a
thought.
giant hedgehog head.
Instead of Longclaw, they should have had Uncle Chuck.
Uncle Chuck. Oh,
Oh
no.
my god.
It's just Sonic with the mustache.
It's the original movie design.
Yeah.
Uncle
I don't
Chuck.
Robotnik wishes
So-
his mustache was so bushy and beautiful.
Yeah. But on a more serious note about that scene, I think that my favorite little nod to like the way that it was designed was the flower. Like when I saw that, actually, like that put a smile on my face.
Yeah.
The 2D Green Hill Zone flower, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, well, I guess before we go too much further, we should probably talk about Tyson Hesse
Oh yeah.
and his involvement with the movie. Sorry if I pronounced his
did
last
he do
name.
the soundtrack?
No, he didn't do the soundtrack. He was apparently the lead creative person on the Sonic redesign. And I think here's how you know GCG fact checks itself. I think I've read somewhere that he also gave some additional creative advice to the team about like little gags and Easter eggs. Like, you know, there's a scene later in a hotel room where Sonic is doing his like teetering on a ledge animation on the side of the bed.
Oh yeah.
Which I think I've read was like a direct suggestion from him. So I'm wondering if, you know, the fact that this scene feels like so much more germane with the, you know, most other Sonic media is a result of them rewriting it to be that way.
Yeah.
Because it does, it was like, my thought was I was watching the movie, just like, can we go back to how the beginning was? Like, that felt like Sonic. That was cool.
See,
And I wanted to see more of it, especially when Sonic and Longclaw are attacked by a tribe of echidnas,
Yeah.
which I must say, that is a bold as brass move, Paramount, you know, knowing
Yeah.
Ken Penders' legal history.
well,
There's
but
no
it
way you
does
can take
mean
them
that-
on.
Yeah.
Putting yourself right in the line of fire, guys. Hope you're ready.
Oh god, for the Pinder suits. But
He'll
yeah,
Lara sue ya.
it does mean that Knuckles could be seen in the next movie, which
I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they did that because I wonder if he doesn't own the movie rights to those characters, but just the creative comic.
Well,
rights.
okay, to clarify, Penders owns like he owns the rights to the specific characters that he created for Archie. He does not own the rights to Echidnas.
Yeah, it's like they're just a creature.
the real animal echidna he owns the
Yeah.
rights to, not the Sonic design. Just
Yeah.
all echidna. It's like how all pandas belong to China. Anyway.
But yeah. So the Echidnas, they want to get Sonic because the movie explains kind of indirectly that Sonic's blue quills are like the source of his superpowers.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not so much the source. It's not
Because-
really clear
Was
if
it
it's the
Samson?
source or if he is the source and his quills just happen to be, you know, like.
That's true. I was just basing that off of the idea that, like, you know, later in the movie, Robotnik is able to take one of his quills and use it as a power source for his
Right.
machines.
But also, that quill only became active the first time after Sonic used his powers.
Yeah.
Well, no, wasn't that the quill that
Yeah, it was the quill that the It's-
freaking
that James Marsden found.
Tom the human.
Yes,
Um,
but
Donut
yeah, that was
Wars.
before.
yeah,
I think he
found
got
it.
that quill before Sonic does like the Sonic Boom in the baseball
Yes,
arena.
but it wasn't like lit up at that point. I don't think it might have been.
I don't
But
know.
Once Robotnik gets it, it doesn't light up again until Sonic does the hyper spin later on in the movie.
Yeah, he does like the
Okay.
Sonic quote unquote boom.
Yeah, we're literally splitting hairs here. So I guess to kind of explain. So yeah, Sonic has, you know, he obviously has superpowers, and Longclaw warns him that bad people will want to take him and like use his superpowers for their own evil purposes or whatever. And so these echidnas attack, presumably for that reason.
Yeah.
And you know, Sonic gets sent through one of his. Longclaw gives him this little bag filled with rings, and this I thought was kind of a clever adaptation
Yeah,
from the
this
games
is
where
very interesting.
they get, you know, because they have the rings, but then they also have like the giant rings that you warp through to get to like special zones. And basically the way the rings work in the movie is you take one out of the little bag, you throw it, and it opens a portal to another world.
Well, to another place.
Or, yeah, another place. Yeah, more accurately. And so Sonic gets pushed into the ring as Longclaw is presumably killed by the echidnas. And he winds up on Earth, and he basically spends his youth, or the remainder of his youth, growing up in this small rural town, Green Hills, observing the humans from afar, and growing attached to them, but also not feeling like he can reveal himself lest bad people come to try and take his powers. And I thought this was interesting because it's something we've never really seen. That's a situation we've never really seen Sonic in before per se, and I kind of liked that in these early scenes of the movie. I'm just gonna say that I liked Ben Schwartz as Sonic. Like I think he has a good voice for it, and he did a good job overall.
He has a very
I think
good
I like his
personality
characterization of Sonic more in the beginning of the movie than I did after he meets Tom the Human and onward.
I mean, I'm inclined to disagree, but
Same.
Because I guess to me, he has the whole, in the trailer they show a scene of him playing baseball with himself, kind of Bugs Bunny-like.
I can see that.
But so that scene hilariously became an emotional touchstone to the movie.
Yeah.
Which I was not expecting, but
I actually, that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I think the way that they've adapted Sonic's personality in this game, he's a lot more hyper here than he is in any other media that I've seen him in.
And I think the reason for that is because he hasn't been allowed to do anything for 10 years. He's stir crazy.
He's got that preteen child thing where it's he wants to rebel. He wants to go out and do stuff with, he wants to make friends, but he can't. So he's he's stuck.
Yeah, the and I was happy to see that because and I'm not one of those people who's oh, Sonic Colors ruined the franchise because it had jokes in it, which it seems to be a recurring sentiment coming out. But I do, I kind of have been missing a more sincere side of the storylines and writing, and I don't think that was put in this movie to respond to that. I think it was another way that the movie played it safe, where we need our cute character to have some scenes with the puppy dog eyes and I'm all alone. But I will say that the baseball scene, apart from the fact where he explicitly says I'm all alone, I have no friends, I'm so angry, was a really effective scene.
Well, I mean, I don't think that part even was that bad, because it was, first of all, he hasn't been able to talk to anybody for 10 years, so he talks to himself. That is a thing for the next half of the movie until he becomes really comfortable with Tom and talking to Tom. He's constantly talking to himself because he's had nobody to talk to for 10 years. And so at that point in the movie, it's sort of him realizing, and it makes it it makes sense that as he's realizing that he really is alone despite what he's been telling himself for 10 years, or maybe not 10 years, because it's it shows that he went to a bunch of different planets and crossed off the ones that were no longer safe, but he's been telling himself that he's not alone, he's got the people of Green Hills, but then he finally realizes that as long as he's not as long as he's hiding himself, he'll always be alone, which I think is a good. I'm gonna put my cards on the table here and say that I think that this movie had a really good sort of moral progression and a very good sort of idea that it tried to convey. I know that some people may not agree, but I think that it was really, really effective.
Well, it's one of those things where he's lonely, and it's one of the few things where he can't run away from that. No matter literally and mentally, he can't run away from that. He kind of tries to, going around the bases real quick. But, it's comes down to, he's, as long as he's hiding, he's always going to be alone. And, all of his problems, he's been able to use his speed, but that's one thing, he can't outrun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable, that, the whole idea of, the superhero, your superpower isn't going to fix this problem. That makes sense. My issue with the scene is I just thought that him explicitly saying that out loud, while it may have made sense with his characterization, I just thought it was kind of overbearing, kind of hand-holdy. And again, I'm just going to preface a lot of what I'm going to say here with, I know it's a kids movie. I know that it is made, for an audience with probably a shorter attention span than older folks like us, but I just thought that was I'm a big proponent of visual storytelling, And I think that would have been that scene would have been perfect for me if it had, played out exactly as it had, with all the jokes of him like playing the different positions and going around the bases and having his big like emotional like I did it, and then looking around and no one is watching him or cheering for him in reality.
I think
Have a short moment, nice standard wide shot of him alone in like the stadium at night. And then he just immediately starts running, like, angrily around the bases.
For me, it wouldn't have had as much punch if he hadn't said, I really am alone. Anything he said after that, you could have gotten rid of. But him saying, I really am alone, I think really was, like, the punch point of that scene for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That probably could have worked.
I mean, that doesn't ruin the movie.
Well, yeah, it doesn't ruin the movie, but it speaks to one of my issues with this, and, you probably could have seen this coming with this kind of movie, but it is very, like, if there is something the director, I almost said developers, we're not talking about games, Joe, we're talking about a movie, but if there is something that the writer-director wants you to know, expect to be told it with words.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest problem with the dialogue in this movie. Apart from just, generally not making me laugh that much.
Okay.
I just thought it was very, like,
well, Joe,
obvious.
That part's just because you're a curmudgeon.
Well, yes, but but this
on
movie
that
for
note-
children should cater to my 25-year-old expectations, don't you know? That seems fair, doesn't it?
I think it's better to cater to my 23-year-old expectations.
Joe,
He's got me there.
I want to counter that argument with something that they tell visually. I was going to say I like how they characterize Sonic whenever you go to his little cave. And you see all the Americana stuff, like the sports stuff. Like, he loves Flash. Like, he identifies with like a fictional character who also has a crazy power that's exactly like his. Like, I loved that. Like, they characterized him so well to me. Like, I really like this Sonic.
Yeah, especially that scene where he's like getting all of his stuff together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely like a take on the character that we've never seen before, and I guess I would be more inclined to like it if I didn't feel like it was done just to kind of bring Sonic's personality more like in line with a standard like movie protagonist. Mm-hmm. Because there are certain other things about Sonic in this movie that I feel. And again, I want to just preface this. I don't think it's bad to portray a character in media in a way that, like, other media, like, sorry to open this can of worms, but, there's a lot of people who are very upset by the way that Luke Skywalker was portrayed in Star Wars The Last Jedi. And I don't want to get into that, but, like, I didn't have a problem with it. Like, I could believe that he became that person after, like, those events transpired and that much time had passed.
The sacred hedgehog texts.
Yes, I don't give a crap about the sacred hedgehog text. You can show me a different side of a character's personality. It's fine.
Isn't the sacred hedgehog text just like fan fiction?
No.
It's the Sonic Bible.
It's the Sonic Bible, yeah. For the purpose of this conversation, we're going to ignore the fact that this movie, along with every other piece of Sonic media that's ever been released, is blasphemy. I just want to put that out to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
Just so we know
Thank
where
you,
we
Nick.
stand. It's where our
Curator of Sonic
Thanks,
lore.
Polygon.
But yeah, I just want to say, I don't think it's bad to portray the character in a different way. I think that's fine. But there's a fine line between, showing us another side of a character and not taking advantage of the brand that your movie is piggybacking off of.
Yeah.
Because I think in some ways they kind of flipped the character of Sonic and Robotnik in this movie. They display each other's personality traits a little too much, and it just doesn't, the dynamic isn't as strong as it is in other media, but we can talk about that more later on.
One big thing with this movie is, and this is something that I'm gonna talk about a lot towards the end when we're talking more about the end, but this movie was about the conflict between Sonic and Dr. Robotnik. The clash between the two of them was the focal point of this movie, which I think...
not really. I mean, it seemed, I would say from like a narrative or like character development standpoint, the focal point of the movie was with Sonic and I guess Tom the Human finding I'm gonna keep saying that until somebody laughs.
Tom the human.
Call him Donut
Sonic
Lord.
will never end.
Tom
Look,
the human.
Joe,
Going
But
on
they-
just call him
adventures that
Tim like
never
your
end.
dentist.
Okay, Tim the human. Sonic and Tim, finding happiness in what they've being content with what you have, because to skip way ahead, like the conclusion of the film is Sonic and Tim the human settling down. It's like Sonic basically becoming his and his wife's
Right.
son.
So
I love that.
And
here-
Robotnik is just kind of, Robotnik is the external conflict, but the internal conflict is that, like, Sonic, he doesn't feel like he belongs in his world.
Here's
and I
what
guess
I will contend. This movie is at its core about two people who were given an absurd amount of power and the different ways that they chose to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That
can
was
see
the
that.
ultimate conflict. To me, that was the ultimate conflict of the movie,
Yeah.
which
Fair enough.
really resonated with me. So I'll talk about that later. But
Sonic was given super speed, Robotnik was given an IQ of 300.
He's got
Which is so ridiculous that they
Speaks
weren't
12
able to
languages.
explicitly say it in the movie, but they did
they
allude to
said,
it.
yeah, his IQ is off the charts. They say.
Yeah. Say it, you cowards. Take
So-
advantage of your brand.
Speaking of characterization, like we've talked about Sonic, but I think Robotnik, it's a weird take because, like you said earlier, he's a character that you love to hate him, but to me, the goofiness is there, but it's a little subtler. But he's just an asshole in this movie.
Oh yeah.
At least that's the impression
Yeah.
I got.
Yeah.
Well, it's it's like for an origin movie, I think it's cool to see like another side of the character, like Robotnik before he became the Robotnik that we know, where he was just he was essentially like an ordinary guy, but like real douchey, I guess.
Oh.
Where he's
So
like I will say, in terms of the character of Robotnik, they got the idea of like him being really egotistical down.
Yeah.
But the one thing I was missing from the way they characterized him was the cruelty,
Yeah.
because he's really just kind of, not to say that he has no like menacing presence, but I think they went a little too far. I know they got Jim Carrey for a reason, but I don't know if he was the right choice for a character like Robotnik, because if you go back to like most Sonic media, Sonic is the one who's like irreverent and cool and joking and making cracks and everything, and Robotnik is the serious guy that's just inherently funny because he takes himself so seriously when he's
I
like
did
a
well.
egg-shaped Teddy Roosevelt.
I deserve a promotion.
That
But
was actually
there is
one of
that
my,
other.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt, but that was actually one of my biggest worries when all the reviews before this was like, oh, Jim Carrey's so great, he's so great. And my worry was like they were going to make a villain that's too lovable to the point where it's like you don't want to see, like, I feel like you have a problem now with a bunch of villains in movies where it's like a lot of people are cheering for him. And that was one of my fears.
Yeah.
Where at this point it felt like, he is a fun villain, but at the same time, he is a total douche and, you're supposed
I
to hate
know
him and they do a
exact-
good job
but-
of that.
I know the exact group of people who is cheering for Robotnik, and they're the people who I was exactly one step removed from becoming in high school. So,
Uh-oh.
You know who he reminds me of in this movie? Have you guys
Joseph
ever seen
Stalin?
well, that too. Have you guys ever seen Grandma's Boy?
Yes.
Grandma's
Nope.
It's it was a Happy Madison production in the
in that
early
case.
2000s. It was all about like game developers. It was actually kind of a little before its time.
Oh no.
But like,
I'm sorry, that's just a red flag right there. A movie about game developers
No,
from
no,
the early
it's-
2000s by Happy Madison.
it's not what you think. It's a competent comedy.
Okay.
It's mostly a stoner movie.
Right.
But like, there's this character who basically is trying to cosplay as Neo the entire time, and he's like this totally just like distracted and aloof, just like jerk of a nerd. He's like,
Yeah.
he's like if Neo and Malfoy merged together, and became a video game developer.
Yeah, you're saying all this and basically just describing Jim Carrey's Robotnik down to the outfit. Like he does kind of start out in like that Matrix-esque outfit, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's so the way that I think the way that Robotnik was characterized in this movie, sort of
Even does the robot walk? My God.
Yeah, that was actually really fun. Was for the purpose of. I enjoyed the scenes where it's like. I had a lot of fun with that. But anyway, for the purposes of what I believe is the central conflict of this film, the whole great power, what are you gonna do with the thing? Robotnik is if you had somebody who had the exact circumstances that he had, it was like a mega genius, there are exactly two ways that coin could fall, and he fell with the bad side up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I didn't really finish my thought earlier, but the aspect of Robotnik that this movie was kind of missing for me was there's something very, he is a goofball in the games, but he's also a very cruel, unfeeling person a lot of the time. Because even back to the original Sonic game, because his plot in that game is to like capture defenseless woodland animals and use them as a fuel source. Mm-hmm. Like, and none of that is really in the movie.
Right.
He like as we mentioned, he does like get a hold of one of Sonic's quills and he uses that as a fuel source.
I mean,
but I just didn't think that. I don't know. To me, it just kind of felt like he was just like the hired gun of the U.S. military.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that one because there are several points throughout the movie where Robotnik shows like, and I honestly like when they were happening, I felt like it was a nod to his character and like his whole plot of capturing animals. There are several points in the movie where he's shown to have absolutely no regard for an animal's life, especially when it comes to Sonic.
Or other humans' lives.
Well, yeah, that too.
Or just like common decency.
Like,
could you? And I'm probably forgetting something, and I apologize. Could you remind me of one of those examples?
When Sonic is like basically dead near the end of the movie, he's like lying on the ground, and pretty much any time that anytime that Tom is protecting Sonic,
Tammy.
Yeah, anytime Tom is protecting Sonic and Robotnik is there, he'll like say, "It's just an animal. It's just a thing. Why do you care about it? Let me have it for science."
Well, again, yeah, that's true, but again, that's like telling and not showing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean,
I'm sorry if I'm throwing all these like entry level like film school terms around.
Yeah,
but it's all I know.
Well, yeah, with
I'm
Robotnik,
sorry.
he doesn't see people as people. He cares more about his machine. So I mean, that does work. But I do understand the whole idea of like, you should show the audience something, not tell them. So I do totally get where you're coming from.
That reminds me of the other themes that I don't know if they're as apparent in the movie because, like you said, Sonic and Robotnik are definitely opposites. But there was a more subtle one that I picked up on, is that they're both lonely in their own way, and they both deal with it in different ways.
Yeah, it's the concept of which way that coin's gonna fall.
Right.
For Robotnik, it always falls tail side up.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me a lot of Catra.
But then Sonic's coin falls tail side up during the credits.
Except it falls tail side up twice.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I was gonna say if anyone watches the new Netflix adaptation of She-Ra, his decisions remind me a lot of Catra, where he just keeps making worse and worse decisions.
Yeah. There was something that so to the point of like showing, not telling, I don't think that they could have gotten away with showing Robotnik being cruel to animals in this movie, because there was that scene at the beginning where a turtle almost got hit by a car, and
that should have been Robotnik's truck, the gun truck that he drives.
Yeah.
Because he has a gun truck in this movie, and it's amazing.
Maybe if they did it again later, where Sonic saved another turtle. But yeah, no.
Dude, that fucking turtle scene, though.
Where that turtle almost got... And I was like, if that turtle gets fucking hurt, sorry, Trey. I am walking out of this movie. So
Yeah, well, okay, I don't mean like I wanted to see like an animal like graphically dissected or I'm just
Right.
you know, I'm just off the top of my head like. First of all, just to say, don't worry, we'll get back to slowly recapping the plot later. But if this, I felt like this movie it was really short. I think it was like just over 90 minutes long. Which for like a modern theatrical movie is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I felt like the movie should have gone on a little bit after that. Like it felt like it just it came to its conclusion very quickly, and I feel like you could have had a scene where Robotnik has like captured Sonic, and you know, something as simple as just like putting him into a machine and like extracting his energy.
well, here's the thing.
A la the Sonic Unleashed opening.
How is Tom the human gonna get him out of that?
He's gonna sneak up on Robotnik from behind and like suplex him. I don't know.
He's gonna get Sonic's friends together, and they're gonna go on a wild adventure.
See,
Yeah, the next.
yeah, I think that in the sequel they will have a lot more room to characterize Robotnik that way because they'll have more characters.
Dude, honestly,
But-
like I feel like this movie kind of was to set up a sequel. Like we said that before, but like
yeah.
I'm kind of stoked
Yeah,
for where
me
it's
too.
going.
I want there to be another movie, and I want it right now.
Yeah, because we finally got to unhinge Robotnik and to
And Tails.
and Tails.
We're in the spoilers zone. We can spoiler
Yeah.
however much we want.
Yeah.
like my boy Tails. Like he's here.
That just annoyed me.
Really?
Because
I got so hyped.
Well, no,
for
I
that.
mean, I wasn't like unhappy to see those things, but I was unhappy that like this movie basically was like there might be more like Sonic stuff in the movie if you come and watch, and it's
Well-
like the two other things that are Sonic like besides Sonic himself are two like post-credit stingers.
Well, the way I see it, I think that it's kind of better that way because this way they have time to introduce people to the world of Sonic without going too far into it. Like,
but it's
you
not the
can-
world of
well,
Sonic.
no,
It's
that's
the
what I'm
world
saying.
of somewhere in
the
Montana.
like, universe of
It's
Sonic,
the
Green
real
Hills,
world.
Montana. But like because you're introducing them to the concept of Sonic, which is a very in the context that they put it, it's very bizarre. Sonic is very bizarre, but he's the only Sonic and Robotnik are the only two like way out things in this otherwise grounded-ish sort of world. And because they did that, in the next movie, they'll have a lot more room to play around with the absurdities because they have the buy-in and they have established what kind of thing you can expect from the absurd.
That's true, Nick, but also I don't really like this movie's world, like as a world for a Sonic story to
Fair
take
enough.
place in. Because it's not Sonic's world. You know, it's literally just some like mundane little town,
Well, yeah, but like
some highway, and then, San Francisco eventually, and a couple of like landmarks.
but what I'm saying
And I feel sorry, go ahead.
What I'm saying is that in the next movie, they can spend a lot more time off Earth because they have
Yeah.
Tails here doing his like whatever it is that he's about to do.
Yeah, it's techno junk.
Right, but I don't know. I feel like part of the reason why this movie even got greenlit is because of the specific way they decided to do it, where it's like, okay, we're going to have Sonic, who's obviously going to be animated, but we can just shoot the rest of it in like whatever, like wherever. It's just in like some little town or, San Francisco or that like stretch of highway that they can't seem to escape.
Well, see, I liked that they used real world locations because they took the dedication of not being in front of a green screen 24/7.
That's true, but I at the end of the day, I question why they even made, if they're going to make a Sonic movie, beyond just like it having mass market appeal, was live action a good fit for like an accurate, faithful Sonic movie? And I don't know that it was, because I felt like a lot of like, we need to talk about Tim the Tool Man Wachowski. And his charming wife, because
I like them.
every scene with them and like the wife's like sister, and I
Joe,
was
if you're about
just
to say you just
checked
liked
out.
them,
I'm sorry.
Joe.
Nick, I'm sorry. I mean, okay, I didn't dislike them. Like, I did, they all seem like charming fictional people. I'm
just
sure.
saying, we have polar opposite opinions on this one. I
It was
loved
like-
those scenes.
I was there for Sonic, man.
I was there for a movie.
Let me say this about about the sister-in-law. I think she was a better villain than Robotnik was.
Yes.
Well, yeah, she's trying to destroy their marriage.
Like, Robotnik had that, like, hey, you're fun, you're a villain, but you're fun to be on the screen. She had that whole, like, oh my god, go away feeling. And I feel like she's, like, technically in that sense, she was a bigger villain.
When she ended up tied up in the chair, the amount of satisfaction that I felt in that moment was maybe more than when Robotnik got booted off to Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, the character of the sister was like the most movie character. Okay, no, that's the lie, because I forgot
Tyler
about the
Perry,
guy.
eat your heart out.
I forgot about like the tough guy from the bar.
Bear Man.
Although
We don't like your kind around
he was
here.
he was like a character, less of a character and more of just an archetype.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was literally
But, like,
a plot point. Like he only
The sister,
existed
it's
to be a
like
plot point.
she. I think you guys summed it up. She is just like a stereotypical like low effort movie villain, because it's like, why does she want to break up their marriage? Like, why is she worried about her sister hanging around this guy? He's successful. He's well liked in his town. Like, is it because he's the sheriff of a small town or whatever?
It's because she doesn't trust him and she's never liked him for reasons that we probably will never know. Because you're not supposed to care about that because they want to be lazy when they're writing.
Well, but it's like, why... okay, I do start to care, Nick, when they're devoting time to this character and not to the, the title character of the movie or, like, his ancillary elements that, like, I'm here to see, and I'm sure the kids that are invested in Sonic are also here to see.
Okay,
It's just like...
I know the purpose of the sister was to get to the niece.
Yes.
Who
Okay,
is...
speaking of which, I want to say...
fills my heart with joy.
Yeah, the scene where she gives Sonic his new shoes was one of the 2 times that I cried during this movie.
Yes.
Because I cried twice during this movie.
To me, that was just random.
I thought it was adorable.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seemed like the sort of thing. Like, I didn't think of this during the movie, but in retrospect, it was like, that kid is probably like the surrogate for the kids in the audience.
Yeah.
Because, I talked about that kid running around the theater at the end with his arms behind him. There's a scene in the movie where she does that, like while her mom is tied up.
And I want to go on record and say, I think that there is absolutely nothing wrong with having an audience surrogate in a movie. I
don't think there is either, but like the purpose of it was to like, see kids, you could be like this girl who loves Sonic and buys Sonic merchandise and goes to Olive Garden. And
God.
Hey,
to me, that was not the purpose of that character.
which, by the way, promo code GCG.
50% off.
I hope someone
In case you
actually.
forgot.
I hope someone actually tries this at a Olive Garden.
Hey, let's...
Also,
Guys.
let me say this: that what y'all think of Sonic's feet in that scene?
Oh my god! Of all the things I didn't think, of all the dark corners of the Sonic fan base,
Sonic
I did not think we're gonna get a nod in this movie.
Let me just say, I think it was really.
That was one of them.
I think it was really good in this feature presentation.
Feature.
I hate it.
I'm gonna kill you.
Thank you, I hate it.
So to go further into that scene where she gives him the shoe, I think it's to show that, oh yeah, he's a kid like me and he needs shoes and he doesn't have any friends. Like,
Yeah, it's
I
like
want to be
when
his friend.
it's like when Goku
Okay,
asks
okay.
for your energy for the Spirit Bomb.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna try to give
but
Goku
it's-
your energy.
yeah, you're gonna put
Instead
your
of
hands in
asking
the
for
air.
your energy, though, he asks for your shoes.
So let me
like
ask.
the Terminator. I need
Goku
your
just
shoes.
shows up. I need your shoes,
to
your
me.
clothes, and your motorcycle.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Joe. If a injured blue hedgehog came into your house and you had a new pair of red shoes, would you not give them to him?
What
No,
a
I would leave
scenario.
him to die. I'm on Robotnik's side.
You monster!
I'm
I
the
am Dr.
angriest
Robotnik.
man who ever lived.
Ooh, that must be the pizza.
I do,
boy.
There's one thing I didn't like, and I want to go back to what was a bar? I guess like the
It was
it was a bar. Yeah, it was a bar
Before we
because
do
they
that,
talk about like how he
Ethan-
was like too young to be in there.
Yeah.
There's one part where he does like the whole like
Kid.
music video scene where like everything stopped and he's going real fast. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so
Quicksilver scene.
when I first saw that, I was like, wait, is time stopped or is he going so fast that? Because I feel
Well,
like
it's
it's
a-
like. Maybe
a
I get kind of
Quicksilver
mixed up with
scene.
this because it doesn't feel like he's going really fast. It feels like he kind of stopped time in a way, and I feel
Yeah,
like there was
yeah,
kind of
I
a
do
mix
agree.
in there.
The way
I think that there was like a little. I feel like there was like a little bit of movement during that because they do it again later with Robotnik, and it shows him like slowly pushing the
Yeah.
button.
So I think the reason they didn't do any movement is because I'm pretty sure that the way that they got that scene was by planting a couple of cameras and recording everybody like falling over and then freezing on one frame with their like movable cameras and then just CGing everything in. And the amount of extra work that it would have taken to do any motion in that scene at all would have been juice not equal squeeze, if you know what I mean.
So Ethan, you don't think it looked as good as it should have, or it didn't look
I
right?
feel like there was
It
a
was-
little
I do
movement in
agree
that
it was
scene.
confusing.
I think it would have been a lot better. Like I said, it just seemed like wait, can he stop time now or?
Yeah.
Because it was a little because like the way that I interpret that is that when Sonic is using his super speed, he gains like
He Quicksilvers.
ultra perception or whatever
Yeah.
of his surroundings. You know, he's able to interact with things at like so like time kind of it feels like time slows down for him
Speed
almost.
Force.
Speed.
But again, I
mean-
don't know. I don't think we were meant to think about this because like in terms of Sonic's speed, God, we're never gonna get back to the plot. But like, you know, there's that scene early in the movie. Like, okay, I'm just gonna set the scene so we can
Yeah, we
talk about whatever. But the whole premise of this movie is that, or the inciting incident is that, you know, little Tiny Tim, the
Haven't got a lot, I don't need a lot,
Sheriff
I'm
Taylor,
happy and
he
fine.
finds Sonic in his shed or whatever.
Yeah.
And he shoots him with a tranquilizer,
So-
as you know, as per the trailer, and he causes Sonic to drop his bag of rings into
Yeah.
one of the rings, and it lands on top of a building in San Francisco.
would just
And for
like
that
to-
reason, Sonic feels that this guy
needs to-
owes him to take him to San Francisco and recover his rings so that he
Yeah.
can go and live on the Mushroom Planet because the government is after him because he ran around the baseball field and caused like a
huge power outage.
sonic boom and a power outage across like
Sonic
the
boom.
Pacific
Sorry.
Northwest.
Okay, so here's a thing about that scene. I love the fact that, a la the games, Sonic got hit, held on to one ring, and dropped all of the rest.
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
Well, yeah, he got hit, and he threw the ring as he got hit, and then all of the rest of his rings fell through the hole.
Yeah. There's 2 times in the movie that happens.
Yeah.
Where he drops all in San Francisco when Robotnik's shooting at him and he drops the bag of rings because he fell on the ground. I was like, oh, that's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What I was, all of that preamble was to say, and I know again, it's a kids movie. Like it's not supposed to make sense. Nobody cares. I'm just playing it out because
Who cares?
somebody will find it amusing. No, I don't. I'm not gonna give you that idea.
Anyway.
But so there's a scene. You know, there's obviously that climactic scene where Robotnik is chasing Sonic through the city and then through all these other areas, and he's able to keep pace with him.
He just keeps on moving ahead.
Yeah, you know, they're obviously moving very quickly, but when Sonic gets Cop to take him to San Francisco, he tells him like just go west, and then Sonic runs to the west coast into the ocean and comes back within the space of a second, and it's
love
like,
that.
why would you go that
Want to
fast
see me do it again?
on your like casual journey to San Francisco and not run that fast when a mad genius in a giant robot that can inexplicably move as quickly as you can?
So, because they weren't showing any other movement in those scenes, I think you're supposed to assume that they are going that fast.
Yeah.
It's just slowed down for the sake of the camera. Also,
And like I know, just to put my cards on the table, I know It's a joke. It does not matter.
I want to point out
in the context of the movie, but I think it just speaks to, again, the kind of movie that, this movie exists to make money off of a known brand. Not to say that like nobody on the production like cared about quality, because obviously they did. Obviously there's a lot of quality in aspects of the movie, but like on the whole, I just could not shake the whole like this exists to like get butts in seats
I would
and
like
take your
quickly
money
to point
vibe.
out in that scene that we were just talking about, Robotnik kills at minimum 2 people. He blows up 2 vehicles that are in traffic. He blows up a few parked vehicles, but he blows up 2 vehicles which are in
parked.
traffic.
So two things. I don't want to get too far away from the fish scene, because you guys just like it was an epiphany. I know why Sonic was so pissed off that he ran into the ocean, not because of the bad directions, because he can't fucking swim. Donut Lord almost killed him.
Yeah. Add that to the list of stuff going against that character.
On that
subject,
almost killed Sonic.
I just want to say that it was genius. It's a genius thing that they did. It takes a little bit of recognition that they set it up to where Sonic gave names to people based on like attributes about them, like Donut Lord and Pretzel Lady, so that later in the movie he could call Robotnik Eggman.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Oh, you know what? You gotta give you props. That is clever.
Yeah.
That is very clever.
And then you mentioned double parked cars. So whenever Sonic parks the car when they stupidly let him drive,
Why did they let him drive?
Tika Sumpter says the same thing. Tika Sumpter literally says,
drive?
"Why did we let him drive?"
They got all the way there and they didn't like stop him.
So
Was he too fast? Probably.
yeah. So when he parked up on the sidewalk, this adorable little kid in the same row as me was like, nailed it. It was so
great.
charming.
Yeah. So I guess we've kind of set up the general premise of like the frame of work of this movie is Sonic and his new best friend that everybody loves going on this road trip to get to San Francisco together. Where his wife already is.
She flew out because he was gonna go out there anyway.
They're gonna move. Yeah, because his whole like, I guess character arc of the movie, or I guess what his character wants is, he wants to be, he's a police officer in this small town, but he wants to be a police officer in San Francisco and like see some real action and save some lives and whatever, of blue anthropomorphic hedgehogs.
Well, I don't think he wanted to do that at the time. I think that.
But when he did, in the end, eventually, he realized that saving one cartoon character was basically the same as saving the lives of hundreds of registered voters. But sorry, I couldn't.
A couple of hundred
resist.
of them.
A couple of hundred of them. But which again, like pretty standard, generic movie character story arc where it's like, oh, it's not about like the glory and like going and doing stuff in the big city. It's about the people you really care about in your real home. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
And this is
Should have been
problem.
Tails.
It will be in the next movie.
Well, why couldn't it be this movie? Why did I have
Because
to
they
sit
needed to
through
set it
boring human guy?
I like Tom. I like the Wachowskis. They made the
Well,
Matrix.
nothing against. Okay, yes, okay, yeah. You know what? I don't know.
Also, on that note, I like them as a couple because she's nice to animals because she's a vet, and Sonic's she cool. She can.
Yeah.
I like her.
Yeah, that was convenient.
I really liked Tika Sumpter's character in this movie. I really did. I thought that I really enjoyed James Marsden and Tika Sumpter's performance. I thought
They're
that
such
it was
a good
enjoyable.
little couple.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think they did bad. I don't think they gave bad performances. I think. I mean, I think they kind of knew what this movie was. It's not like Oscar worthy, but like they're fine. It's just there are scenes in this movie that if you chopped them out of context, you would have no idea that this was a Sonic movie. Like it could just be any like generic like family comedy.
Would you call that the adaptation tax or like the Hollywood tax on storytelling?
I would call it the prequel tax.
Okay.
Well, okay, but in like your, like your superhero origin movies, like, well, actually no, I'm thinking of Batman Begins. There are parts of that movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are
but
plenty of scenes in the first Thor movie that if you cut it out, you'd have no idea that Thor.
But also using Batman Begins as the example, like when he's in like Tibet or wherever in the monastery, it's this fantastical, like it feels like something that could be in the world of that incarnation of Batman. It's not like you've got cartoon hedgehog in like checkerboard Green Hill Zone land, and then smash cut to like rural United States, and just this couple talking about moving to San Francisco. You're right, Trey. I think that's a good way to put it. It's like Hollywood adaptation tax, and there's unfortunately a little too much of that in this movie for me to really give it the thumbs up.
At least it wasn't like Hollywood subsidized like the Mario movie. Like,
so
that's completely unforgivable.
So I'm gonna just say that I've watched basically all of these movies that do this trope. I've watched the Woody Woodpecker movie. I've watched like all of the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies. I've watched
Yogi Bear?
Peter Rabbit. Haven't watched Yogi Bear, but I've watched
Yogi Bear's okay.
Like
I've seen it.
all of these movies, with the exception of Yogi Bear. But I'm pretty sure the Ranger doesn't ever drive with Yogi sitting in the passenger seat. Anyway, I've seen all these.
Yogi's like,
Here comes Yogi!
I've seen all
from
these
the old,
movies that hit
from the
this
old
trope,
Super Nintendo game.
and there is not a single one of them where the aside characters are as genuinely enjoyable as this one.
Yes.
In all of the other ones, they feel super tacked on. In this, it felt like it was just part of the movie.
Yeah, they felt like real people, and they were like, I'm so glad that they decided to use such a positive couple to represent the couple of the movie.
They were
like,
such a great couple. Like that scene where she's like, "I haven't freaked out during this." Like that is a keynote couple moment. That was amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? God, I keep finding myself saying this, but that is a good point. That because in a, I can't believe I'm saying this, but in a lesser movie, you'd probably like whichever spouse was not like friends with the cartoon character would probably be like cartoonishly like, you lied to me, I can't believe you, I'm divorcing you.
See
But she's
the
just
Woody
like,
the
no.
Woodpecker movie. Side note: do not see the Woody the Woodpecker movie. It's terrible.
Got it. But you're right. Like at least they didn't do that. Like they do feel like, like they have a relationship, at least to the degree that she doesn't immediately like divorce him.
Yeah.
And then come back
Despite
in
her
the end when they
sister's
find out about
hardest
something.
effort.
Yeah. Maybe that's why she was there. The movie wanted to be like, look, we're not doing the cliche thing for this one element of the plot.
Honestly, her and Donut Lord's character, their reactions to all the craziness around them, kind of human, but also they stayed in control as much as possible. Like they didn't have raving human protagonists I'm done with this shit kind of moments.
Like the Transformers protagonists.
I was gonna mention that earlier. as far as
James Marsden never chugged a beer.
Yeah, I am so glad they did not take the new Transformers path.
So
it could have been so much worse.
Speaking of beers, we were talking about product placement earlier. I would like to mention in the bar scene, there's product placement for Corona Extra and Modelo Dark.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We can both be okay with this movie now.
You know what? Speaking of the bar scene, because of course, as you do on their road trip to San Francisco, Sonic and his friend wind up in, what would you call that? Like a?
It's a roadside tavern.
I want to call it a saloon.
It's a roadhouse.
But I feel like that's
you would call
roadhouse,
it a roadhouse. Roadhouse.
Mirage Saloon Zone. They end up in Mirage Saloon.
Roadhouse.
I really love Sonic in the ramshackle cowboy disguise.
The Mel Blanc character disguise.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that reminds me, I love his obsession with giant hats in this movie.
Yes.
It's I need more of this in the next one.
So, speaking of things that we loved that were just little one-off things, I loved Fluffy Sonic so
Yes.
much. I've been staring at a picture of him this whole recording because I didn't want to forget to mention it. I love Fluffy Sonic so much.
He's just
Yeah.
been looking at it and like, I don't understand how anyone could dislike this movie.
And I also
Fluffy Sonic is everything.
I also love in the scene where it's like where the Roadhouse is tempting Sonic, that scene where the two muscle women are arm wrestling.
Yes.
That
Oh, yeah.
was bellissimo.
You know I'm here for that.
Okay, calm it down, Vince. But yeah, that, I don't know. Like, I when I say I liked the outfit, that's kind of where my praise ends. Because that scene, that whole setting and that scene is like so done as far as movies go, that like
Yeah, man.
down to the big like the tough guy that's like, we don't like your kind around, just like,
yeah.
oh my god,
That to me felt
we're not gonna take it any farther than this.
to me that felt less like a trope and more like a lampshade.
Yeah. It's like, oh, how are they going to handle this type of situation? I
Maybe.
thought it was a good setup. Like, I was like, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this trope.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm not opposed to the idea of like Sonic, you know, owning a bunch of drunks. Like, yeah, teach them the error of their ways, Sonic.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You know, that brings
but,
me
like,
to how much did you like the whole things to do on Earth bucket list?
That was adorable.
I liked it.
I didn't hate it, but it was kind of weird.
I liked it because it was like you had Tom who feels like, you know, he's in Green Hills and feels like nothing's going on. That's why he wants to take the sheriff job in San Francisco because, you know, he wants to do something. He's bored. Where you have Sonic, where, you know, his life is all about, you know, high octane action. So, you know, they have total opposites with each other. So I feel like the bucket list thing was
Yeah.
kind of the thing that like joined them together. Where it's like, you know,
Yeah.
Sonic was like, this
Yeah.
is my last day here. I want to do a bunch of this stuff. Where Tom is just like, all right, you know, let's, you know, I kind of like helps Tom like kind of get out of his comfort zone and be like, okay, let's
And
Yeah.
and
On
I think
that
that's
note-
We
I
should
think the whole bucket
mention-
list thing. I think that's what really hooks like Sonic and Tom together.
right.
Right. We should mention the reason for the bucket list. The reason Sonic has a limited time is because when he gets to San Francisco, he's going to use one of his rings to go to
Yeah.
another planet to be safe from Robotnik
Well,
and
To
Mushroom
like, the
zone from
U.S. government.
Sonic and Knuckles.
Well, from anyone
Because he
who would
and-
exploit his power. Not just them.
Yeah.
They're just the most
Yeah.
recent instance.
Well, we saw his little map where he's like, well, this world ain't
Yeah.
safe, and he checked it off like 9 times.
Uh-huh.
My question is, where does he keep getting more rings?
He only had the number they had in his bag. By the end of the movie, he only had 3 rings left.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it! I just realized I missed my chance to make a Seven Rings in Hand reference. Whatever.
All right. So,
But anyway, I wanted to say about that scene with the bucket list. It's another one of those things like the baseball scene where I like the idea of it. I think it's something that could work. But there's so many times in this movie where, and I don't know, like Nick, in contrast to you, I haven't seen Woody Woodpecker. I'm
Right.
sorry, or any of those other movies.
I don't think anyone
so I
else
don't know
did.
if. I don't know how like favorably this movie compares to those in terms of like cinematic qualities,
Much better.
but like in you know, in like your ideal good movie, there's like a natural bridge between your lighthearted comedic scenes and your more intimate like emotional scenes. And I feel like there were a lot of points in this movie where there was a very jarring
Yeah.
cut from one tone to the other. Like, and that is one of the most egregious examples, I think, where they're in this bar and they're like waiting for their food and they just start talking like, so what are your hopes and dreams, Sonic? Or okay, I know it's like that's not how they phrase it,
So-
but it's basically just, you know, it just like hard cuts into like, well, I only have one more day on Earth, and these are all the thing. What's a bucket list? You know, or sorry, I'm butchering this.
yeah.
I'm doing a disservice to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I'll never
Yeah.
cease my penance walk.
How dare you? That movie got 80-something
Shame.
% on Rotten
Shame.
Tomatoes.
Didn't it get a nearly perfect audience score? Like a
Yeah,
98?
Almost, yeah.
Anyway.
Whack.
The bar scene, you reminded me of something that hurt my heart a little. Not because that bar scene it was tropey, but the stuff he got at the gas station, he didn't put it in the car when he
Yeah.
drove off, and it fell
Oh
off.
yeah.
But speaking
what a monster.
Speaking of the bar scene, I absolutely love how, because this is something that's sort of fallen by the wayside about Sonic in the past like 8-10 years, how they did a chili dog thing.
Yes.
Because like that has like just sort of stopped being part of his character, and I love that they
No, it hasn't.
Look,
You
kind
played
of.
Sonic Forces? Everybody's talking about chili dogs in that game.
Oh.
Fair enough.
Rouge the Bat talks about chili
Though,
dogs.
to be
It's
fair,
like, what
Sonic.
have you ever seen a chili
To
dog?
be fair,
Flaming
Sonic
guano.
I had one today.
Forces exists to be a trope. Sonic Forces, the entirety of Sonic Forces exists to be like a lampoon. So, I mean, it makes sense.
It's not just Forces.
Sonic Slam.
National
Oh, I
Lampoon
need this
Sonic
movie.
Road Trip.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Here we go.
Oh boy.
So I do
But,
like that, 'cause, like he's like in the bar scene, he's like, oh, I want like buffalo wings and stuff, and I'm just like, why didn't he just get a flipping chili dog? Isn't that kind of his
because
thing?
he doesn't know about chili dogs yet.
And then like later on,
Yeah,
you see one eating them, and he's like, oh, okay, there it is. And then he mentions later, he's like, oh, I think I had something called a chili dog. You know, it's like, okay, you did it right. You redeemed yourself,
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, stuff like that, and like the chili dog, you know, that's always been like an ancillary detail. Like it doesn't matter
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
But like I feel like they could have done more with the shoes. And I'm sorry to get back on this, but because I think you guys explained your point well, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's just weird that like some random kid like had Sonic's
yeah,
shoes
that was weird.
and
I
just
will give
gave
you
them.
that.
It's like she just had them.
There were a few moments, I'd say 2 to 3 moments in this movie where I had to actively put aside a bit of disbelief to continue enjoying it. That was one of them. They were few and
It's
far
the Sonic the
between.
Hedgehog
but
movie?
that
Get
was
outta
one
here.
of them.
But like I don't know, the chili dog thing. It's just, you know, there's not really. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I guess
It's
it's
just
not
fun.
worth talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm not
Let's
gonna
move
be
on.
like, I'm not gonna be like, he didn't need a chili dog. I'm boycotting Sonic.
0 out of
yeah.
10, no chili dogs.
Well, the chili dogs were always like an American Sonic thing
So
that they then retroactively put into the games with like Unleashed and Black Knight,
Right.
which Black Knight probably has my favorite implementation of the chili dog thing, but we'll save that for the
when we
eventual
eventually
Sonic and the
play
Black
through
Knight
Sonic and the
commentary
Black
on
Knight.
GCG.
Oh, no.
Don't you put that evil
Which will
on
probably
us,
not
Joe.
happen this decade, so
Don't-
don't look forward to it. It will be terrible. Anyway,
we've
any
been-
further thoughts on the Mirage Saloon saga?
No, but before we get to San Francisco, like, can we just talk about, like, we've been focusing on the hero characters. We haven't focused on Robotnik a lot, or his second in
lackey.
command.
Oh yeah,
Agent
it's Snively.
Stone.
Yeah.
I-
Is that his
No,
name?
he's Snively.
I do. Wait, is his name actually Snively
name-
Stone? Because I
No,
don't
his,
know.
his name. I don't. His name is not Snip. Or if it is, they never stated in the movie.
I really-
But I don't know.
I would.
I just
love
immediately
that so
drew
much.
that parallel.
Yeah. Yes, I wanted him to be named Snively the whole movie.
Robotnik's always got to have somebody to pick on. So
Yeah.
you know.
I'm a little sad that they didn't give the robots more personality. They were just like eggs.
Well, I think I think he was supposed to be the foil to Robotnik in the sense that he's like the normal person reacting to him.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
he's the straight man.
So
He's the intern. He
Well,
he's
really is.
willing
not
to put
so
up with
straight,
whatever.
Anyhow,
Right. I was definitely
like-
getting sub and dom vibes, but that's just me.
of course I want a latte. I love the way you
He's
make
like
them.
he's. Oh my God! Is he the Smithers to Robotnik's Mr. Burns?
Sir, I made it with the kind you like.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. They could have done. I understand the purpose of that character, but again, as with most of like the human characters in this movie, like I don't know. They just seemed very like rote and
Yeah.
underwhelming.
On that note, I love the completely incompetent military general at the beginning of the movie. I was like, you know what? I'm here for this.
Was he incompetent?
Well,
a little.
Robotnik just wasn't letting him finish his sentence.
Well, no, not that guy.
you mean the guy
general.
who said Azerbaijanistan? Because there are one of two
Yes.
things that could mean. One, it could
Yeah.
mean that this guy has no idea what he's talking about, and he's just
Yeah.
making things up to like justify getting in Robotnik, or two, it could mean that there actually was going to be an uprising in Azerbaijan to become its own nation, and Robotnik quelled the Azerbaijani uprising.
Oof.
Okay, sorry, I was a little turned around there. I thought you were talking about like the general guy from when Robotnik is injured. I forgot about the freaking Pentagon guy.
Yeah, the Pentagon generals. Yeah, I liked those guys. They were funny.
That one is the guy who delivers the message from our sponsor.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
To bring some
The great reward for James Marsden's good deed at the end
I'll
of
talk
this
about that later.
If there is, okay, here's what I'll say about it. If there is going to be like product placement like that, I'm glad that they handled it with such like an anticlimax. Like, wait, the fuck? This is our reward.
That was like, okay, I think that would have been funnier if they hadn't name dropped Olive Garden earlier in the movie.
Oh,
because
I don't know.
then it would have just been like completely random. I mean, okay, I don't know if it would have made it better.
Yeah,
and I understand the concept of like,
I think the reason that
like
it
a
works
setup and a payoff
is, I think that you're supposed to assume that the military found out that Tom liked Olive Garden, and so they thought, hey, here's a good thing that we could give.
Okay,
We'll buy them off with this.
that's fair. I
generic
guess
enough to love
that's
it.
a layer to the joke that I didn't pick up on. But
Wait.
I find it I just find it funny that like. Well, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more it kind of falls apart.
You know what? For characterization purposes, I really like that now. I'm starting to fall in love with this because he's like, oh man, these people are the most normal people ever. What can I get them that they'll like? I know. A gift card to the Olive
Out
Garden.
of touch government man.
Well,
Yeah.
no, the implication is also that he loves Olive Garden, like the guy who gives him the coupons. Yeah, he's like,
Well, everybody loves Olive
That's
Garden,
true.
Nick. When you're there, you're family.
that's very true. Like,
I forgot they said
Promo
that.
code GCG.
even
Use
if
it,
they
folks.
even if they
You won't be
weren't giving us
disappointed.
money for this video, I would say that I love Olive Garden.
Which they totally are.
breadsticks.
I hope for the thumbnail
we
you
swear.
have like a bag of like breadsticks on the side.
This is
I bet you guys wish you were here.
Alright, so where were we in the along the plot of the movie?
They got to San
Along
Along
Francisco.
Yeah,
the
we
road
left the
to
road.
Just hit
Yeah.
San Francisco. I think. Yeah.
So I think we're at the part where they're on top of the building, and that's
Well,
when
actually, hold on.
Are we?
There was-
That seems like
There was this.
we skipped over a whole like action
Yeah, there's
scene
the
where
scene
Robotnik
with
sends out his
Robotnik and-
robots to tear apart
Yes,
James Marsden's
so-
obvious product placement
that
pickup
poor
truck.
Toyota.
I gotta say, my first impression of that, when he goes to the breaker in his lab and there's a section labeled Badniks, I
love
audibly
that.
gasped.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't make that
yeah,
out.
Yeah,
there's,
right
there's
above
a thing
Evil
that says
Lair.
Badniks.
Yeah, it's Badniks, and then there's two, and then Evil Lair, and there's like 4 fuses.
I just thought that fuse box scene was funny, like inherently.
Yeah.
Just that
Yeah.
he, even Dr. Robotnik, when things go
Yeah.
wrong, he still has like little taped labels for his
Yeah.
fuses. That was
it
one of the
simple.
few things in the movie that I like legitimately got a chuckle out of. That was a good joke. But that scene is
Yeah, I
weird
know,
because
I
he's
was
just
not in love with that scene. I will.
like
Where
he's
like,
just I guess the point obviously the point of it is some executive was like, we need more Jim Carrey humor in this movie, like but we don't have anything for him to do. Just have a scene where he dances in his
There
trailer
were a couple of parts of
while
that scene that I did
a
love.
machine analyzes the sonic quill.
The dancing was weird, except for one part of it was actually a reference. Because there's that video of the guy who dresses up as Robotnik and goes to Starbucks and like does the dance. He does that dance.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
no
seen
kidding.
that.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, speaking of Sonic memes that made it into this
yeah.
movie.
Oh yeah.
And this is now a Sonic tradition, unfortunately, as of Forces. There's a character early in the like when they're in the little town of Green Hills
Yeah.
in the beginning. There's this character, Crazy Carl, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
He's like the town crazy, and he's been reporting sightings of this quote unquote blue devil for as long as Sonic's been around.
He's out there.
He shows them a picture that he's drawn of the Blue Devil, and it's Sonic.
For those of you that don't know,
Which...
Isn't Sonic supposed to be like this, like very crudely drawn Sonic meme?
Trey, I don't think we need to explain Sonic.
So I would have laughed more. I would have laughed more at that.
If they've made it an hour and 40 minutes into this video, I think they know what Sonic is.
Ethan,
I would have laughed at that more, but someone actually spoiled that scene for me, so I was kind of like, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that happened. I was a little upset.
I'm in general, I'm not a super big fan of like memes ascending to like canon within the media that spawned them. But I will say, the way that this movie uses Sonic is a million times better than the way that Sonic Forces did.
It was appropriate.
Well,
yeah, like they put a little more thought into it. They put a little more thought into it than just like, here's a meme.
Yeah,
it actually makes sense, because my problem with like putting memes in movies and stuff is like, how's this going to look 10 years from now? Because when a lot of people put like memes in a movie, they're like, oh
is
god,
Olive
yeah,
Garden
that was
even going to exist in 10
like,
years?
Joe,
No, you
they're
see
paying
it,
us
you see
to
it.
make this
God, I
video.
hope
Of course
so.
they will.
You put a meme in a movie, and then 10 years later, someone will go, oh yeah, that was the thing. But in this case,
Yeah.
like 10 years later, it's going to be that Sonic picture, and it's like, oh, it's just a badly drawn thing of Sonic. So it like actually works in this case.
Also,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to put a legal disclaimer in the credits that we're not actually.
I mean, this is how we
you
get the
talking about, Nick?
sponsorship.
Yeah,
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if
We've
it
done
pays
nothing
off.
but praise them
that's true.
for an hour and 40 minutes.
Look, man, I love Olive Garden, and if they want to give us money,
We've praised them longer than the movie was.
we've been talking
We've
about the
honestly-
movie.
We've been talking
for
about
longer
the
than
movie longer than the movie.
I was about to say,
is
our video's already
long.
longer.
Oh my god.
So thanks for watching.
Only Sonic fans could do this terrible
Thank
thing.
you guys. If
Hey,
you're still
I love that
listening,
movie.
thank you.
Troopers.
So yeah,
We're not even to San Francisco yet.
so
This is the
Okay,
most
we're
boring
almost to
road
San
trip I've
Francisco.
ever experienced.
we're on the road,
So, like,
and a bunch of
yeah.
robo dudes are attacking the.
Oh
Mazda
yeah, how did I
Miata.
forget that scene?
Dude, I liked
Yeah.
the robot that kept getting smaller.
Yeah,
That was fun.
especially like the
Okay,
second
yeah.
to last stage where it looked like a badnik. Like,
Yeah.
I loved that.
I guess I kind of in terms of the design of Robotnik's, of Eggman's robots.
Got all those
They-
advanced robots.
Yeah, I said that to Mike during the movie. He thought it was hilarious. But they,
Oh, I thought you
I
said.
appreciate
they say he
that-
punched you in the face for a minute there. I was like, what?
Jeez, Mike, it's just a movie.
yeah, what was I gonna say? The robots. I guess I appreciated that they, since they weren't gonna make Jim Carrey like actually egg shaped. I appreciate that they at least had some link to the whole Eggman thing.
That makes me
Because his
wonder-
robots in this movie are basically just a bunch of like flying eggs with little turrets
Yeah.
that fold out. Although they do kind of have the same problem of like the Sonic 06 robots, where they all just look like rejected like Portal
Yeah,
enemies.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brain Scratch Comms, for that one.
yeah, that's fair.
I do occasionally cite my sources for these
But,
stolen jokes.
But yeah, I had something specific to say about.
Oh, I
this,
thought
but
they looked like Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Okay, they also looked like hell. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, I loved this, but I'm also a little disappointed in the way that they did it. Was that he's in the egg carrier later in the movie, but it's not egg shaped. Like, I love the egg carrier.
Wait, is he?
Well,
Oh no,
He's
not
in-
the egg carrier. You're talking about like the Eggmobile, his
no,
little
he's in
like
like
pod.
a jet,
He has a little jet thing,
Yeah.
his hovercraft.
which is
Yeah, but the egg carrier. Okay, the egg carrier is like a big warship,
Ah.
like a flying warship from Sonic Adventure.
see, I thought that the egg
Pushes up
carrier
glasses.
was the boss, the boss mobile from like Sonic 1.
No,
His
no,
little
that's the
Koopa
egg. That's the Eggmobile,
Eggmobile. Then yeah,
or the Eggomatic if you go by the U.S. canon. The egg carrier is like his big doom
Right.
ship. Which maybe we'll see that in the
I
sequel
hope
since we had
that-
to wait through all this.
I hope that the
crap.
next movie starts with Then one day, his doom ship attacked. Dr. Robotnik
No, the next
was back
movie begins with like the Sonic Adventure opening riff,
with the greatest
and it's like
threat
loud as
the
hell.
world has ever known.
Dude, they can literally go anywhere. I know we're a little ahead of ourselves, but like, that's the end of this movie really opens them up to kind of do any story they want.
They should just go back to Sonic's world and make an entirely animated movie.
I mean,
They could. They have room to do that. I don't know if I would prefer that to them having, the spliced in live action, because I think it worked pretty well, but they have room to do it.
yeah. So to get back on track, so the car gets destroyed by the little shrinking robots.
Yeah.
Like Sonic gets injured, and that's when they go to
Yeah,
the
can we
sister-in-law's
talk?
house.
Can we talk about how Sonic gets injured? Because it's the stupidest thing ever, but there's actually an explanation. So
the sticky
Eggman,
bomb.
he sends this robot after them that it starts out as a big robot, and then he blows it up, and then a smaller robot comes out, and he continually blows it up until it's this tiny little flying thing that just gets stuck to his hand
Yeah.
and starts to like tick down to like detonate. And Sonic, he cannot get this thing unstuck from his hand until he tries to pull it off. He puts it on James Marsden, the bastard, and he puts it back. And the whole time I'm watching this scene, I'm
Take
like,
off your
Sonic,
glove.
just take off your glove. And then I remembered, oh yeah, in the original
Oh, yeah.
version of this
He didn't
movie,
have gloves.
with the old design, he didn't have gloves. He just had white fur, really awkward, bad-looking white fur on his hands. And I'm guessing they didn't have enough time to redo that scene so that made... I mean, okay, again, it's not like a movie-ruining thing. It's
Right.
just like... It's a remnant from a much worse movie we could have gotten.
It basically makes him have Mickey Mouse hands, and he is, at the end of the day, a cartoon.
I
Well,
legitimately...
yeah, and to be clear, I don't want to see Sonic's hands.
yeah.
Now, there are some people...
I mean, we saw
But,
Sonic's feet, so I'm happy.
So,
Well, thankfully they were in socks.
during that whole scene, all I could think about was Bobby from a Goofy movie. Like, I had a whole dialogue in my head about what happened to Bobby.
Is that the one where he's like?
You ever notice how
You ever wonder why we're all wearing gloves?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's the Leaning Tower of Cheese guy.
yeah.
Oh god, that I have PTSD from that movie because of that
Oh
song.
yeah, because you hate cheese.
Yes, I do.
Anyhow.
All your hate mail to GCG at Gmail.
No cheese on your chili dogs, then.
Actually, don't use that email address. That's not what it is.
No cheese on
It's
your
customer
cheese on
service
your
dot-
Olive Garden breadsticks.
It's game. It's game check gears at puppies.supplies.
Ethan,
What?
I'm gonna say this once.
What?
You keep your grubby little hands away from my Olive Garden breadsticks.
Come at me, bro.
I'll kill you. I'll do it.
Well, while they fight it out over who gets the last of the unlimited breadsticks,
But they're half off.
What do you mean the last? They're unlimited.
They're half off.
They'll
Sorry, I got
never
really.
end.
Oof. I need to stop yelling.
So we get to the sister-in-law's house, and that's where we meet the very overbearing and overprotective sister-in-law.
Yeah. Well, it's the first scene where we get to, because like they show her earlier on to kind
Yeah.
of like set it up. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've kind of said what I wanted to say there. It's like
Yeah.
she feels like she's from another movie. I don't
Yeah.
care.
She warped in. She used a
Yeah, she
ring
used
from
a
Tyler
ring.
Perryverse,
yeah.
and she's here. She'll go back after this movie.
Okay, let's stop for a sec. Am I judging this movie too much based on what I want it to be versus like what they were going for?
I would say that there's a little bit of that. I mean, I don't blame you for that, but like,
'Cause
I can sense a little bit.
I don't
want
wanna
to
be unfair to it.
Yeah. I mean,
Because like clearly there are, like I said, aspects of the movie that were really people put a lot of effort into. A lot of people who, probably aren't famous and work a lot harder proportional to what they get paid for. As with any movie. I don't mean to like throw all these hardworking people's hard work under the bus.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know.
It wasn't what you wanted.
Well, it's yeah, it was not what I wanted.
but no, yeah, like
Where's my Sonic movie?
I see, because Joe, what you wanted was a Sonic movie, whereas what they made was a Sonic movie. if my emphasis
Yeah, I
carried
get it.
through. And I mean, I'm perfectly fine with a Sonic movie as opposed to a Sonic movie.
Oh yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again though, it's just one of those things where, like, again, I understand why it is the way it is, because it's cheaper to just have scenes like in a house with actors than it is to like animate cartoon characters in like a fantastical world. I get it, but it just, I don't know, I just don't like that something that I legitimately love, like Sonic, has to be subjected to that, where it's like it doesn't get to be the movie that it could have been.
Okay.
Because the people who made it like didn't care as much. Okay, the people who are making like the executive decisions didn't care about the brand the way that like the fans who are gonna go and spend
Right.
money to see this movie do.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like they do have the ear of people, like you said, that are consulting with them now. Because since that first blunder with the design, they're kind of like doubling
How did
back.
that even happen?
Well, here's the thing.
They wanted human teeth.
Before they had the extra consultants and went back, there was probably the whole studio went in on it because of like one executive, and then everyone was like, "Look, it fucking sucks. No one likes it." So someone had to eat crow.
There's this old saying. I don't know if I've brought it up before, but it goes, "A giraffe is a horse designed by a committee."
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
That's pretty much what I assume happened to Sonic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A hedgehog is a
It's
giraffe.
just, I don't know what. I know that people have different education, different skill sets, different backgrounds, but what universe do you have to come from to sink all of that money and all of those people's time and livelihoods into that design?
The Mushroom Planet.
It's got breathable
There you go.
air.
Oh my God! Did Dr. Robotnik make this movie?
I mean,
But like,
someone very lucky.
seriously.
Well, here's
and,
the thing.
and I'm kind of like impassioned about this because
Yeah.
I have a degree in animation. I'm trying to find a job right now. Like, is this what's in my future?
No.
Is just
Not if you work.
Because-
well,
for,
yeah, it's not because there's no animation jobs in Des Moines.
If-
But like,
if you find
but it just makes me so frustrated that like
And you should
like this
be,
is the
yeah.
world we live
Well-
in, where
see, here's the thing.
the studio that did the visual effects. I'm sorry. I've just lost my mind by this. This is in parallel to Robotnik in this movie. I have slowly lost my composure over the course of this
Joe,
rambling.
I don't know what you're talking
hydra
about.
of a review.
Your grasp on sanity remains absolute.
Yes.
I don't think that the original design, I don't think they were trying to get away from the original design. They were trying to be too safe, and they didn't take everything into perspective. So I am glad that they doubled back to correct what they did.
Yeah.
But like you said, like that would never have flight. This movie would not have been a success had that design
Though, yeah.
gone
Well,
through.
yeah, like and the they did a amazing job. Like, for my money, watching Sonic, like the way he's animated in this movie is like the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like they did an amazing job, like making a live action appropriate version of Sonic for the it's great. But the studio that did the animation,
Went bust.
or rather the branch of the studio that did the animation for this, and the animation for the Lion King remake, which, need I remind you, made over $1 billion
but also
during its
was not
theatrical
good.
run.
Sorry.
Well,
my opinion.
so I hear. I can't speak.
I
for,
haven't-
it's the Lion King.
It was perfectly acceptable. I as a person who's seen the remake, and it gets 3 out of 5 stars because the hyenas are amazing. That's the hyenas save that
Shinzi
movie.
Banzai.
It's
Okay,
one
but the
star for
point-
each
the point-
hyena.
Yes.
The point being, and I know that this is not how like it legally works, but the studio that did, if there's one thing everybody can agree on with that movie, regardless of how you feel about like stylized animation versus realistic animation, is that movie had amazing visual effects, like nothing that had ever been done. Like the entire
Yeah.
movie is photorealistic, like perfectly animated, real animals. Like that
Yeah.
has never been done
And I wish
to that
that it
degree
had
before.
never been done, but that's just me.
And the movie made over $1 billion.
It's visually appealing, but you know
And
how
the
many
s-
people phoned in their lines?
Well, but again, okay, I don't want to get too far off track. My point is, the people responsible for the success of that movie, beyond just like, you know, Disney for having like
Are
nostalgia.
now out of a job.
Yeah, the studio that did the visual effects for that movie had to close
So, here's my
because they didn't have enough money to stay open after they made a movie
Worth $1
that
billion.
they basically made a movie that made over $1 billion.
Here's my take, though, is that the outside of the fact that the studio went bust, the fact that this design happened sort of, I think, gives hope that there are always going to
Yeah.
be Tyson Hesses out there. There are always going to be Noelle Stevensons, Dana Terraces, Alex Hirsch's, J.G. Quintel's, Rebecca Sugars, Craig McCracken's, Lauren Faust.
People who are dedicated to like their craft and like reboots and just like giving a quality product.
Yeah. And there's always going to be a market for that. Like, and the executives can only butcher so many of the reboots before eventually you're going to get a Noelle or a Rebecca or a Craig or a Lauren that's
Yeah.
going to fix it and make it good.
That's true, but I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's the system I object to.
Yeah.
Speaking of, not to get too off track, but do you know who's doing the He-Man reboot?
It's Kevin Smith, right?
It is. I'm so excited.
Wait, movie or show?
Show. I think it'll be a Netflix
Yeah,
show.
it's a
Oh
Netflix
my
show.
god.
All right, I think we're getting
Totally
off, we went off track
Yeah.
here. So
Sorry.
So
But yeah, so that's why I care about this movie. I just hate to see, because you know, I know animation is excruciating. You know, it's fun, it's great. It's when it all comes together and you see what you've made. But it is a highly skilled. I'm not even good at it.
I mean, I disagree.
Like if you watch the GCG intro, like that's about the
think it's
best I
cute.
can do.
Yeah. Joe, your work has a lot of character. It looks nice.
I can't even imagine what it must have been like to make that real, creepy-looking Sonic for however much of the movie they had done by that point, which hopefully wasn't much. Like, I can't imagine throwing all of that work away when you have to make something that's that detailed.
Don't worry, they kept the real
that
human
fits
teeth.
in with other real.
They kept the real human teeth. They just superimposed them over James Marsden.
Okay, that's a clever workaround there. I gotta give him credit, but I don't know. I guess I don't know. I should probably get off
Yeah.
this. I'm not saying anything revolutionary. I'm just barfing out all my baggage at this
Well,
point.
you know, we haven't finished the plot yet, so we've left the sister-in-law's house after Sonic is back to the land of the living.
Thank God.
Sonic parks his car badly, and then
Yeah.
they go to the top of the building.
So, just real quick,
Which was probably also a product placement.
it was the Transamerica building. But anyway, before we get off of the house, I just want to again commend Tika Sumpter and James Marsden for that whole scene. They were such a good couple in that scene.
yeah,
Like, I loved it. Anyway, back to
yeah, they didn't attack. They didn't attack each other. They attacked the issue, and I was fine with
Yeah.
that discussion.
Yeah, that is something I can appreciate. They didn't like make a forced conflict there for drama. Although to backpedal a little bit, just a little bit, I felt like you know, one of the things that this movie kind of implies is that Sonic, well, he has this power here that he doesn't have in the games, where he like becomes electrified when he gets emotional, and that causes him to become like more powerful, like, you know, powerful enough to cause a sonic boom, or
It's like
in order to like spin dash into Robotnik's like tank or whatever, he has to become electrified. And the way that happens is that before they realize that they're being chased, he's having a conversation with James Marsden where he's like, how could you leave Green Hills? Like, it's your family. Like, are you turning your
So
back
I
on
feel
them?
like you're
And
about
I don't know.
to
I
drag
just.
that, but I am then going to immediately follow you by commending it.
But again,
So-
it's okay, not entirely, because again, Nick, it's one of those things where I think it could have worked for me. Like, if it had been written a little bit more carefully, I wouldn't have had an issue with it. But the problem is, like many things, is they just jump into it without, like, it doesn't feel like something Sonic would, like, naturally. He wouldn't get that angry about that. He would just. I feel like he would be more just like, really?
See,
Oh, I thought I.
I feel like your problem with this movie may be my problem with The Dark Knight. Where you want...
Well, no, not even. It's not even that it's not consistent with Sonic. It's that it's not consistent with that version of Sonic.
Well, I don't know.
Okay, but this is a different universe of Sonic.
So here's
though.
here's
yeah,
the
that's
thing
what I'm
about
saying.
this
It's not-
Sonic is that the only thing that he has, the only thing that he has had for like the past 8 years that's like kept him grounded was Green Hills. To him, Green Hills is perfect. It's the whole world. And
Yeah.
so, of course, he's really upset that one of his favorite people from his favorite place in the world would want to leave that place. Like, of
Yeah.
course, he wouldn't understand it.
Plus, he's like a child, so like his emotions would be kind of like a little more sincere and open
Yeah.
So-
than like
That-
the
that-
adults of the show.
Yeah, what you're saying makes sense. I just it didn't feel right to me
yeah,
when
I
I
get
watched
it.
it. Maybe it just could have been like
yeah.
conveyed better or
So,
edited better.
What
I don't
I'm
know.
gonna
But-
commend that scene for is the fact that that problem between the two of them did not stay a problem for very long. Like, they sorted it out.
Right.
Like, it's not like your standard rom-com where like Hugh Everyman walks in, Hugh Grant will say, walks in and sees Jessica Alba making out with Zach Braff,
What?
and Hugh Grant is like, I'll never forgive you for this. And Jessica Alba's like, wait, I can explain. No need. And then he leaves,
Yeah.
and they spend the rest of the movie trying to make it up. They just.
What movie
Yeah.
is this?
I'm just making that. I just picked 3
I
random.
will.
people.
I will say, Nick, that is something that annoys me, and I know it annoys a lot of people online
Why would
in
those two
movies.
be in a movie together?
and just media in general. And I must say, for as much as I loved it, I did recently watch the movie Klaus on Netflix
yeah.
the first time. And the one thing about it that I didn't really care for is that they do that, like towards the end of the
Jessica
movie.
Alba and Zach Braff. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I won't.
Look,
I'm
I
good.
was
I'm
gonna
good now.
say Donald Faison, but I couldn't remember his name. Sorry.
I guess in that one small way, you could argue that the Sonic the Hedgehog movie is better than the visual masterpiece Klaus. But only that way. Let me be clear. Only that
So
one way.
I just want to say that Joe,
Watch
you're
Klaus
biased towards
Netflix.
Klaus because you're in it. J.K. Simmons.
Am I? Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I'll be damned.
Dun,
Yeah, if
dun,
you ever wanted to
dun.
see J.K. Simmons as Santa Claus, there you go. Okay, we are completely off topic.
Santa
That's all
Claus
my
plays
fault. I'm sorry.
himself in that movie, by the way.
Is it time to escape from the city?
Yeah.
yeah. We're at the top
Can't
of the
stick around,
building,
gotta keep
and
moving on.
Robotnik corners him.
Yes. well
And then
said.
they play
So
the
it's-
scene from the trailer.
Yeah, we
yeah.
get the payoff of the bar scene where Sonic like slows down time and messes everybody up. Where
Chaos control.
chaos
Yeah,
control.
he quicksilvers.
Yeah, where instead of doing it with the unsuspecting bar patrons, he does it with all of Robotnik's robots and missiles, where he like moves him around while time is frozen or whatever.
And that scene also contains, I think, my second favorite bit of Jim Carrey as Robotnik in the movie, where he's like, well, I wasn't expecting that, but I was expecting not to expect something, so it doesn't count. That was, that was Robotnik.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention when he's chasing after Sonic and like his robot like turns into a smaller robot.
Yeah.
There's another thing I laughed at was when he says, "Ever wonder where your tax dollars
Oh,
are
yeah,
going?"
yeah.
That was great.
Because it's so true. But yeah, anywho, so that scene where he quote unquote saves James Marsden and his wife.
Yeah.
Is it James or
It's
Jason?
James.
Okay, James Marsden.
Jason-
I just looked at my
Yeah,
notes.
Jason is the one who voices Max.
Yeah. Mike was actually asking me about that on the way home. It's like, no, that's a different guy. But yeah, he pushes them off the building to like throw them into one of his rings to like save them, and in general, I think the visual effects in this movie are fine to great in the case of Sonic. But that shot where they're falling from the building looks like something from the 90s.
That was, I will give it to you, that was...
It is horrendously bad compositing.
That was like Spy Kids level.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and you know what? I will concede. I wouldn't know how to make a shot like that look good myself.
Well,
Yeah,
you just gotta do what they did with Alan Rickman in Die Hard and actually drop him off the building.
Oh, jeez.
Well, they didn't drop
My
him
lord.
off the building that they used as the exterior for Nakatomi Plaza. They dropped him 40 feet into an airbag, but still.
Yeah, they should have done that with James Marsden and Tika Sumpter. Okay, nice.
They have one of those like really big
Nice,
airbags.
I remember the actress's name.
Was it one of those really big airbags you see in like summer camp
Yeah, it was
movies?
a stunt bag.
Okay.
So anyway, he sends them through a ring that goes back to Green Hills, is the town.
He sacrificed
and then
one of his
Robotnik
rings for them. He's a hero.
Robotnik chases him through the city streets, and then we get the punchline to "That's me." You're probably wondering how I got myself into this. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm up to speed, Sonic. I understand.
There is one bit of consistency, and I'm not going to be that guy that pushes up his glasses and is like, this movie sucks. But how does it go from evening to night instantly when San Francisco is south of Oregon?
So,
it wouldn't
maybe
get dark
he sent
that
them through
fast.
time.
He
as
sent
well.
them to
That's
Montana,
a really
right?
good
I
point,
think
actually.
Green Hills is in Montana, so it would be an hour later.
I thought Green Hills was in Oregon.
I don't remember, because the
That's
woman,
Montana.
the woman at the Transamerica building says you came all this way from Montana.
Oh yeah, I remember
So
now.
yeah.
Maybe it was like a lunar eclipse there.
Well, so
Or
Montana
solar.
is an hour
God damn it.
forward. So it's possible that this happened in the winter,
Yeah.
and it was 6 o'clock in California and 7
Yeah.
in Montana.
That's true. And Montana's like long too, so like depends on what side of Montana.
So, and then, you know, he chases him through San Francisco for a bit, and then he starts using the rings to, like, jump between different, like, tourist destinations throughout the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
So he goes through Paris, but then, and as a Sonic fan, I was kind of delighted that he goes to both the Great Wall of China
Pyramids of Giza.
and the pyramids of Egypt, both of which have served as level themes
Yeah.
in Sonic games.
Can we just note that Robotnik blows up the Sphinx?
He blows
Yeah.
up the Sphinx, the
He
bastard.
murders,
diabolical.
He murders multiple people, and then he blows up the Sphinx. So,
God, what a
I'll get
so
back to
there's
that.
there's your cruelty, Joe. You are looking for cruelty.
yeah. He blew up a priceless artifact.
And killed at least 2 people.
Although it was followed up with one of the best lines of the movie.
You can't be
You're
up
not
there.
supposed to be
It's one
up
of the
there."
7 wonders.
I
That
love
was
that
good.
line.
Was anyone else expecting him to refer to himself as the 8th?
No, not really. Sorry, Joe. Sorry to leave you hanging on.
I'm all alone. I really am alone.
Oh, time to hit the baseball diamond.
Oh boy. Somebody please stop me.
So like he finally gets back to Green Hills after going through the world.
Yeah, and then they have kind of a... Again, I feel like I may have been expecting too much from this movie, foolishly, because I thought this finale was kind of
Well,
limp.
so here's the thing.
Really?
And part of that was probably because the movie was so
They
short. Like,
reached-
really, they're gonna end
At this point,
now?
this is where they reached the second point where I cried, and I cried for a while during this one because,
Yeah.
like, this
when Sonic was
no,
dead.
I couldn't care less about that bit. This scene,
We know he's coming back.
this
Alright.
scene was the culmination of the diametrically opposed Sonic and Robotnik. And like,
Yeah.
and as someone who was in like the gifted program as a kid and who is generally has a few things that he's very good at, like to the point where there are few people that I've ever met who are better than me at those things. like, I really understand that struggle of, pardon the humble brag, but I really understand the struggle that Robotnik and Sonic were both in, where it was, you're given this, this greatness beyond what other people have.
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with that? And this is the point in the movie where Sonic realizes that he doesn't have to hide. He can use it to protect people. Whereas Robotnik is pushed even further into the, like, I'm perfect, so there's nobody, like, I shouldn't have to care about anybody because I'm the best that there ever will be.
Yeah. It's kind of a Spider-Man plot in a way,
Yeah.
but it really works for Sonic.
It really resonated with me. I cried for a solid, 20 seconds. Did that come through on Discord? Okay.
Yeah,
my
we're still here.
circle went.
We're just soaking it in,
Right.
man. You're so sincere. That's what we like.
Yeah,
about you.
my circle wasn't green when I
Sincere check games.
when I said the last bit. My circle wasn't green, so I had to make sure that you got all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that I really felt that scene, and I actually I actually cheered for James Marsden when he took the ring and came around and punched Robotnik in the face. Like,
Yeah.
I really am genuinely glad that, like, there's no way this isn't gonna sound like backhanded, but, like, I am genuinely glad to hear you talk about the movie in that way. Because it clearly did elicit, like, a very positive response from you. And I do, like, what you're saying, like, this all sounds like great stuff. I don't know, I just didn't get that from...
I perfectly understand that feeling. I had the same exact feeling about, like, and this is something that you're gonna definitely... We're gonna switch places here. I felt the same exact way about the first, Star Wars.
Sure.
Like, I understand why people love it so much, but it doesn't really hit for me.
Like, you don't feel the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
way that it makes other people
Yeah.
feel. But that's understandable. But yeah, I don't know, something... It was one of those things, like with, the jarring, emotional bits earlier in the movie, where it didn't feel, earned. It just kind of felt like this is what happens in movies when you get to the
Yeah, I get
end.
that.
And,
Well,
and again, that might have more to do with just, more so the filmmaking than maybe the themes they were going for, or the themes that you picked up on. But to me, it just kind of felt like the obligatory... especially... I hate it in these movies when they have a character, pretend to die when they're obviously not going to die, and they don't do anything, clever with... Because, I'm not going to say, you can't ever do this in a story, because it can be done well. But 99% of the time, it's literally just done for, kids in the audience who have,
Never-
maybe
yeah.
seen, 2 Disney movies before this, and, oh my god, he's dead! Is he really dead?
So-
And then he comes back, and everybody cheers.
I have to
'cause
say,
you
I
know.
feel like... Go ahead.
the existence of that trope, I think, is a very, very useful tool, because when that
Yeah.
trope is subverted, it makes it hit 10 times harder, because you're it's a movie, they can't die, right? They can't really be dead. And you hold on to
Right.
that for longer because you keep expecting them to come back. And so I think that the trope, while in itself it does get a little bit tired, is ultimately doing a service to entertainment as a whole.
Yeah.
Also, how much of a relief is it, and I know it's been 3 days, we can't really call it yet, but how much of a relief is it that that movie wasn't terrible, and people aren't going to refer to it for years to come as the movie that killed Sonic,
Oh, absolutely.
like
Yeah.
they do with 06?
Right.
I will say, I think at that point where Sonic's charging up and everything, gets a hold of his emotions, where you're like, all right, here we go, he's gonna beat the shit out of Eggman now.
Yeah.
I think that's when you. I think
that
that's when you
moment is
have. I think that's
great.
when you have Tom and Sonic kind of go with the same conclusion of I don't need to go somewhere else. All my friends are right here in this town. This is where I need to be. I feel like
Yeah.
you finally get the same lesson, and it's they finally, both those main characters get their climax finally.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
do agree with you, Joe, that the movie doesn't necessarily earn all of its emotional points, but for at the same time, I think that movies are kind of allowed to do that because it is a movie and I don't know. I feel like you can get away
Well, but,
with it. It's this is difficult to explain because I'm not saying that it's okay that people are lazy in their storytelling.
Well, and I understand what you're saying, Nick, because even in movies that I like, I feel like there are unearned moments of like emotion. But anyway, finish your thought,
it was
sorry.
just that, like, despite that, like, if I'm going to see a movie, I try to just ride with it, and like, if an emotional punch is happening, I feel like I let myself feel it, even if I don't feel like it could have, like, it fully earned its place there. Now, there are some egregious examples where I'm like, okay, this doesn't make any sense at all. Like, I'm not going to go along with this. This is bad writing. But I don't think that this movie had that. I think that this movie was just a few inches off of its earn every time.
Yeah. And maybe they'll learn to like handle that world and those characters a little better in the next one. But it wasn't like they didn't handle it like terribly. So since we're at the final scene, like the climax of the movie before the denouement, can we just acknowledge that literally how they dealt with Robotnik was just pushing him somewhere else?
Why don't we take Robotnik and push him somewhere else?
There he is. He's over there now.
And he'll never hurt anyone
And now
again.
the Alaskan
Unless
bullworm
they're
is
a
going to
mushroom.
fall directly onto Green Hill Zone.
Also, I forget if we've mentioned this in this recording yet, but did anybody else pick up on the idea of the mushroom planet being like a dig at Mario?
I thought about
Yeah.
that.
Because the whole time Sonic's like, I don't want to go to the mushroom planet. Like, yeah, I know it's safe, but it's so boring.
I don't know. I mean,
Because, you know, for those who didn't grow up in the
Yeah.
90s, there was an infamous
If
rivalry
you're-
between Sega and Nintendo.
if you're looking at it through the Sega lens, I definitely could see it. But like, if you're just sort of
Yeah.
casually watching the movie, I don't know. It didn't like
Well, yeah.
smack of that. Like,
Well, but like if you're casually watching the movie, you're not going to pick up on Sonic either.
that's
The mushroom world doesn't have blast processing. I can't go all
Yeah.
out there.
because
It's
Sega does what
slow.
Nintendo don't.
It's so slow.
Yeah. So I don't know. Have we kind of said everything there is to say about like the final like action / emotional climax scene?
Largely, except
But then-
I love Crazy Carl's line where he's like,
Yeah.
"We're all with you, Blue Devil, who is very clearly real and not something I made up."
Yeah. Also,
Or like, but I have to say that cop who's like, okay, like B
Yeah.
cop, the guy who's
Yeah.
like the like other cop besides James Marsden.
yeah, his coworker.
He tries to like take that guy's chainsaw,
Yeah,
and like,
he's like-
I mean, I know he's crazy, Carl, but like he owns that chainsaw. He can take his.
Oh, God. Maybe there's some ordinance in Green Hills about not bringing your chainsaw within city limits.
Maybe.
yeah.
Maybe he's gonna take it on back
Okay.
out to his property.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the facts. I'm just be honest here.
I
But
can't wait for Green Hills Chainsaw
Clearly.
Massacre.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Shadow's return. Okay.
Shadow pumps the chainsaw like he pumps that gun in the middle in the beginning
honest-
of his
I'm
game.
honestly surprised that he never like got covered in soot or something, and then like was like, "Oh, I don't like this look," and like shakes it off.
It was
Oh,
like, I feel like a faker.
Trey, now is not the time to antagonize the adventure fans. They're ravenous.
You know how I feel about
Also, disclaimer: I like the adventure games. I wish they would make another one. I'm with you guys.
that. They
Just
did. Oh, six.
tone it.
Trey, never say those words again.
He's sad part is he's right. But anyway,
I like the adventure games, but a Sonic Adventure
bear,
3,
poking the bear.
but a Sonic Adventure 3 is not going to solve all the problems. So
It's
Yeah.
not.
But yeah, the Green Hill Zone climax happens. I like the little the little sort of throwaway one-liners at the end, like Crazy Carl being like, I wasn't crazy, or the deputy who I'm gonna call Warren because that's the guy because I think his name started with a W, and Joe knows why I would use Warren as the name for a deputy. But like.
Yeah, I guess it's less insulting than calling him Barney.
Then Warren's like, what, you've never seen an alien do whatever? You know, I enjoyed those. Those were fun little throwaway lines.
So I know we mentioned it before, but after the climax, I love that they adopt Sonic and bring all this stuff
Yes.
to the attic.
Oh, I love that. I didn't quite cry
Yeah.
in that scene, but oh my god, I loved how happy he was. Like how genuinely
Yes.
happy he was to have a new like den in their attic. Oh god.
Yeah.
It's just
There's one-
it's a good feeling.
There's one thing I want to bring up, and it's with the what is it? Not the war general, like the commander.
The gun
Yeah.
Where
commander.
he's like, no, what happened to that Robotnik guy? And he's like, he never existed, and it's like, wait, he blew up half of San Francisco. He blew up the Sphinx. He blew
No
up the
such
Sphinx.
person
And you're just
ever
gonna say,
existed.
oh, never,
The Sphinx
never
never
happened.
existed.
Sorry. I was always
No such
expecting like a
Sphinx
Men in
ever
Black.
existed.
I was expecting like a Men in Black pin just to be like, ching, nope, that's it.
Well, Warren makes a joke about that like halfway through the movie.
yeah, they
Yeah.
lampshade that. It's like, yeah, I bet you wish you could do that.
Is nobody
you
gonna
idiots.
erase my brain?
I mean, I like it, but I think it's like a poke at situations like that, or like disasters that happen in real life. What hurricane disaster relief? We don't know what
Oh,
happened
boy.
to it.
Yeah, we're just gonna.
Is this movie just a oh boy.
Did you know? Did you know?
Sonic
It's a
is
thinly
blue.
veiled critique of
Well,
the U.S.
times
government.
they are a changing. I'm surprised
Hey,
that
did you-
instead of Queen, they didn't use Bob Dylan for the music.
Hey, technically, Sonic
God.
is a hipster, according to Bearman.
Yeah, and they don't like his kind around there.
Yeah.
But you know what? You brought up Queen. I just wanted to mention, to backpedal all the way to the beginning of the movie. I loved the scene where Sonic was like helping the little turtle to like go
Yes.
fast. Like that to me felt very. That was where Sonic felt like the Sonic I know, where he's
Yeah.
like. You know, he's like altruistic and kind of heroic. You know, he's got like a soft side in spite of
Yeah.
his. And he's helping a little woodland critter.
Yeah.
Like it ticks all of the boxes there.
Yeah.
Although he does traumatize him a little bit. 'cause
a
when
lot.
he
That's what
puts him
movies-
down, he's
that's what-
shaking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what movies are about. It's just ticking boxes,
You
right?
gotta make sure you tick all the boxes.
Right, Star Wars fans?
Oh boy.
I'm never gonna stop. But they
Don't stop
they
me.
can take
Don't
it.
stop me.
But speaking
Hey, 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 hey! Have a good time. And
don't stop me. Don't stop us from talking about this movie for over 2 hours.
So now we gotta get to. Before we get to the stinger, we gotta
Hold-
talk about that credits. Those
Hold
credits
on.
were
wait, where's
amazing.
Joe
Hold
going?
on, I have some thoughts about the ending with the attic and the like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic.
I
That's an episode title.
like we talked, you know, I was talking about how Sonic feels like so right in that scene where he's like helping the turtle to like, because there have actually been instances in like other Sonic media where Sonic is like helping a character that like can't enjoy or like couldn't enjoy life to like enjoy life in the way that only he can before, like Sonic 06. But you know, he feels right to me in that scene. His ending doesn't feel right to me. Like, I guess it feels right for that
Yeah,
version
I
of
get
the
it.
character, because it's like a, you know, again, it's an origin movie. It's like a younger version of Sonic who,
Yeah.
like, if he even will, he hasn't become like the Sonic that we know yet, even by the end. Because one of the things about Sonic's character from other media, specifically the games, which, you know, are like the canon, is that he doesn't define himself or his happiness by like his surroundings. And so he's always kind of like on, you know, he loves having adventures and being a hero and like going around and,
Yeah.
you know, like doing good and being the world's
I
coolest
think
blue
this
dude or
movie
whatever.
gives
Yeah.
us hints of Sonic slowly developing a wanderlust, and then like getting
Yeah.
tired of
Sure.
where he is. But like, you know, like you said, it's an early movie. I think that it for this version of Sonic, I think it makes sense, and it wouldn't surprise me if he becomes more and more like needs to like be moving. If we get more movies.
Well, and I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I feel like this movie is him becoming a hero. Like he is now infamous in that little section of the world. Like he had to like believe in himself, you know, because he's like, I don't want to show off my powers, or they'll come hunt
And
me.
he's got to make like Aretha Franklin and believe in himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just didn't. in all, I guess it's just that I've consumed so much like Sonic media over my 25 years on this earth that like I just don't really. I never would have gone into this movie thinking that was, that was going to be the
Well,
like the payoff for Sonic was that like his goal was to like find like a home and like a
now
family.
Joe.
And honestly, I think that would have been more interesting in a movie about like a more mature Sonic.
Now, Joe, once you've watched all 40 episodes of Sonic Underground, 2 seasons of Sonic X, and a season...
Okay.
There's literally...
There's 2 seasons of
There's
Sonic
like
X?
5. But
Wait,
yeah,
really?
in season 3 they meet like the alien woman. Anyway, there is an episode of Sonic Underground where the episode song is "I'm so glad I found my home. I've been walking through this world alone, wondering where I fit in, where do I belong? Now a miracle's happened to me."
Please
I
don't.
tried-
We tried to stop him from
home.
singing Sonic Underground songs. He
Look,
didn't listen.
it worked for
No.
you. Held me back for 2 hours and 23 minutes. I had to get one. I get one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's his Sonic Underground tax, as opposed to the Hollywood adaptation tax.
So like I feel to reiterate, I feel like the story works for this Sonic, but not necessarily for
Like Game Sonic.
the game
yeah.
Sonic.
Yeah, and for me, the problem with that, like, I would be on board with it if it was, like, its own original thing, but it bothers me because, again, it's like, you took this... Like, they didn't want Sonic because they liked Sonic, or, like, what people like about Sonic. They wanted Sonic, Paramount did, because it's a known and popular brand.
I can see that. Though I do see hints, and probably this is after the Hess like intervention. I do see hints of like genuine like love for like the Sonic franchise. While it's not like so
Yeah,
explicitly like, okay, we're gonna adapt exactly what Sonic is, I definitely like feel like at least some of the people who worked on this movie really do like enjoy the franchise.
Yeah, that's undeniable. I just, again, it's not the people in the trenches like doing the grunt work here that I have a bone to pick with. It's the it's the ones making the executive decisions. But I mean, I guess they're the ones who had the last laugh, because I mean, so far anyway. Again, 3 days later, the movie is still going strong.
In all, I will say
and
this movie gives me hope for more movies. Like, I'm
Yeah.
hopeful.
Yeah.
I can feel that if they make more movies, they will be good based on this movie.
Yeah, if this movie was like awful and embarrassing, like those Transformers movies, and there were and still like as successful as it has been, then I would be a lot more like upset at the movie itself, as opposed to just the system that produced it, and we got a lot of these things like I object to, but they probably did contribute to why this movie has had such, why it's been like the biggest opening for a video game movie to date, which blows my mind. Like, I was, no pun intended, I was shocked that Detective Pikachu didn't do as well as they projected that it would, because like when that trailer dropped, like people were like all over it.
Did a
Yeah,
very
people were
brief
wild.
scan through a Forbes article about this earlier, and it makes a good point. Detective Pikachu came out the same weekend as Avengers Endgame. The Sonic movie came out the same weekend as a couple of R-rated movies that everybody wanted to go see, but it doesn't have
yeah,
any
that's a
competition
good
in its
point.
space. Like, it's the movie in its space that people are going to go see this weekend.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what impact this movie and its thus far perceived success has on future movies or for future video game adaptations or whatever, because I mean, like, this is the one. Like, this is the one that did it,
Yeah.
I guess. Because like people seem like they were happy with Detective Pikachu, and I honestly think that for me was a better movie than this, even though I would also classify it as pretty average. It just had more stuff in it that like resonated with me as a moviegoer, not just as a Pokemon fan. But like, if that is a perceived disappointment and this is a perceived success, like I'm curious about how things are going to pan out from here.
I mean, I'm just glad that like the number of video game adaptations that are good has grown. Cause, like,
yeah, absolutely.
Someone stole my good video game movie the other day, but I figure whoever sold it probably is more happy to have sold it than I am to have lost it. Thus, the total number of good video games in the world increased.
Good video game movie cook.
So to me, I mean, if I'm gonna be saying there's a top 3, it's gonna be Detective Pikachu, this, and Mortal Kombat. Those are, and a lot of people would disagree with me with Mortal Kombat, but that movie is fun.
Dude, I agree with you.
Hey, Mike
I agree
agrees
with
with you.
you. Mortal Kombat for like what it is. It's just like a kind of cheesy kung fu movie. It's great.
For me, it's this, the Raul Julia Street Fighter, and
Yeah, I was gonna say, how can you guys do such a blatant disservice to the Street Fighter movie? That's like that should be number 1 on every. That should be above number 1.
That's runner up.
Without a doubt.
That's number 4.
God. Anyway, back to the movie at hand. We sort of get to the ultimate finishing off of these characters' storylines for this movie, and I think that we've all sort of said our piece about how we feel
For
about
good or
that.
ill.
Yeah. But then we get what's, for my money, Jim Carrey's best performance in the whole movie. Like, just
As actual
because
Robotnik.
he even starts sounding like Robotnik. Like when he's shouting, he sounds like a mix between like Mike Pollock and Long John Baldry. Like
He sounds like just like him, and I remember watching that scene and being like, why couldn't we have more of this?
Well, I feel like that's like the hook
I'm
for the next one. Like,
it's
it totally
exactly why
is.
I am desperate for another movie. Well, that and the next.
Yeah.
hey, Robotnik's gotta have a journey too.
Also,
I guess.
I love his reference to the phrase, though to me I can only imagine that it's a reference to the Jonathan Taylor Thomas movie, I'll Be Home for Christmas.
Oh yeah. I'll be home by
Because
Christmas.
literally all I could think was the Jonathan Taylor Thomas Disney movie, I'll Be Home by Christmas. Oh, God. Anyway.
Oh yeah, and he even has his own little Rockington.
Yeah, Agent Stone.
What was his name again?
It's Agent Stone again.
Agent Stone.
What was the stupid
Stone.
like rocktastic comedy
Rockconnaissance.
made or reconnaissance? Yeah.
I love how proud he is of it the
Rocktastic.
second time he says it. Because, like, the first time I get it, you make your one pun. But then the second time, he
Did you hear
literally
that,
just
mushrooms?
throws the rock and then shouts, "Rockconnaissance!" Which
Well,
I love.
if we're gonna keep going on the parallels theme, like him and Sonic kind of switched places. Like Sonic now has people around him that care about him, and now Robotnik's all alone, and he's talking.
Yeah.
If those mushrooms could care, Trey, I'm sure they would.
Oh, boy.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because I remember from a pre-release interview, I think it was like some vloggers got to interview him or something, and they asked him about the character of Robotnik, and Jim Carrey really focused on the idea that like Robotnik like doesn't have any friends.
Yeah.
Like he's angry because of that. That he has like a Sonic-shaped hole in his
Right.
heart, I think he said. And like having seen the movie now and having you like describe that to me, that makes a lot more sense. Like that would have been like the theme they were trying to impress of like Sonic going, or like, the progression more accurately is Sonic going from an outcast or like living on the fringes of society to having, a home and friends and family, and Robotnik being like going from like being like the guy you call to living on a mushroom world with no one else to like praise
And
him.
not
I
only
guess.
that, Robotnik had what Sonic wanted and was super blasé about it, and then he lost it. Which the villain laid low is like is a really common but really satisfying ending to a film.
Yeah.
And I think that this one hit it pretty well.
Is the Sonic movie secretly a masterpiece? Answer no.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot more going on under the surface than I feel like
I
a lot of
wouldn't call it a
reviewers will give it
masterpiece, but
credit
I
for.
would definitely say that it is one of my favorite movies to have come out so far this year. but I mean, it doesn't have a whole
Yeah.
It's February.
lot. Yeah. We'll see.
At least it's
We'll
not
see how I
January.
feel about it come March.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. Wait for it. Buddy cop movie.
Yes, it is my
yeah.
favorite buddy cop movie of the past like 3 years.
You know what? Speaking of buddy cop movies, and I know we've gone for over 2.5 hours on this, but I'm gonna go for it. You know what I recently... I know it's not fair at all to compare, like, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But, like, I recently watched that movie, and I compare them because,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
to a casual viewer, they have, like, a similar... Like, a human character
Yeah.
and an animated character that, like, go on a sort of, like, buddy cop adventure.
Yeah.
Quite literally in the case of both of them, actually.
Yeah.
But... And maybe it's just because it has, like, history and clout behind it, but I just... That's my argument when it's like, okay, it's an obvious, like, product placement, like, promotional movie for another thing.
I mean, Roger Rabbit
But,
kind of
like,
was
they
too.
made it really good.
I wouldn't contest with you that Who Framed Roger Rabbit is the better movie to this one. I think that ultimately speaking,
that goes without saying.
The eyes of history will see that that is true. But this movie, I think, was really good. I think that it is about the best that I could have possibly expected a Sonic movie to be.
Yeah. So, I guess we should give our quote unquote scores before we move on to credits and the
Right.
stinger.
Oh, yeah. I'll go last.
So are we gonna
So
give it an
mine-
X out of X rating?
I'll start with mine because I know mine already. I give it a strong 87.4%. It's a good movie. It's fun.
I give it 6 out of 7 Chaos Emeralds.
Okay.
But the Chaos Emerald that it's missing is the 4th one.
Always the fourth
Try
one.
again.
Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald?
There we go.
I'm gonna give. If I had to give it a litter grade, I would say C or C minus. But I mean, it's still worth seeing. Maybe
Okay.
a C plus on a good day. But I feel like this. I feel like I've seen worse movies in the theater, but I've seen better.
Oh yeah.
It's good. If you're a Sonic fan, go see it. If you're looking for a family movie to spend the afternoon with, maybe you're babysitting someone, go see it with them. If you're expecting Forrest Gump or something, you're gonna hate it, of course. But
Yeah, I was
You're
expecting Forrest Gump.
What
I
you
just
thought
kept running.
you bought a ticket to go
never caught me.
I just
See
kept
the little
running.
girl give Sonic his magic shoes.
Oh, Joe, I'm begging you to continue our theme and use a completely different rating system than the rest of us so that there's no basis of comparison between how we
Aw.
felt.
That means
Amy,
I can't give it.
what love is.
Give it a
That
5
means
out
I
of
can't
7.
give it an E rank.
Give it a 5 out of 7.
Well, I think you can give it an A rank, Joe, because rank in a letter...
I didn't say A, I said
Sure,
E.
fine. You can give it a rank because...
I give it a wah 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 wah.
Because E through S is
wah,
different than
wah,
A to
wah,
F.
wah. Wait, nobody here has played Sonic Unleashed but me, so crap.
Oh, fuck. Sorry. Do your score, and then I have one last thing to talk about at the movie.
I'd say on the ranking scale, it's a Sonic Lost World. It's fine enough at what it sets out to be.
Okay.
What it sets out to be is not very good.
Out of curiosity, what are the...
I don't know.
What are your...
couldn't think of
on
a
the
better
Sonic scale,
comparison.
what are your highest and lowest games that sort of frame the one you said?
The Genesis games and Mania are the top, and up there is like the... I don't know.
Like, Colors
Like
and
objectively,
Adventure.
those are the best, but I also, I have like a similar amount of love for like Colors and Generations and like SA1 and 2. And Sonic R, of course, stands head and shoulders above all of them.
Dude, that
So it's not as good as Sonic R, but I guess
Well, nothing is as good as Sonic R. Come on.
maybe the sequel will be as good as Sonic R.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you know what? We went this whole time without talking at all, and there's not much to say, don't worry, but about the music
yeah.
in
Okay,
this
yeah.
movie. So on the whole, I thought, because, it's not a proper Sonic product, plus it's got a kick-ass soundtrack.
Yeah.
and sorry, but this movie.
So I have to
doesn't
say,
it's just kind of your.
I was crushed at the lack of about 40. I can't think of a good way to make this pun. Someone take it away
Nick,
from me.
you are beefing this one completely, but I am with you every step of the way. You know what? I will say, as far as like the score goes, the majority of it was pretty like standard, orchestral stuff.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate two specific moments. A was in the Green Hill Zone opening, where they played the freaking Hyper Potions song from the Sonic Mania intro, which I honestly couldn't believe it. Like, that was almost as like mind-blowing as like the fact that this movie has like an Echidna tribe in it.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't believe they actually, that is totally like a Tyson Hess or whoever.
Yeah.
Had, not Paramount, obviously, but like, that was great to see, especially because, those are like independent musicians. I like when they wrote that song, like, I can't imagine they thought like one day this is going to be played in a theatrical film about Sonic.
And
Like, that's got to be so cool. And then when at the end, during the post credits stinger, when we get the little tease of Tails coming in from the like Sonic's previous world to like look for him in the next movie, the music, honestly, it sounds like something from like Sonic Adventure, like kind of a Jun Senoway like guitar riff. Am I remembering that right? Because like that was like, again, it was like, why couldn't more of the music like sound like Sonic? I don't know what would work for a movie, but like,
I'll let someone else field the question. Am I remembering the music from this movie right?
like, am I like they played like a little guitar riff when Tails showed up?
It did have Sonic Adventure vibes, but there's one other track we haven't talked about yet, and I don't know if anyone else caught it. It was the final scene with the human characters and the denouement.
Oh yeah,
the piano Green Hill Zone.
So yeah, you know what? That was cool. Again, like everybody and their mother has complained about like Green Hill Zone oversaturation in Sonic media.
It worked
in like the last decade, but like that was cool. Just like, you got to have that in the movie, and that was a nice way to do it.
Yeah, it was like
nice
little
piano
loungy
rendition. But the I'm sorry though, but the only thing I could think about during that scene was how much did they have to pay Masato Nakamura to use that composition. Because for those who don't know, Sega is like the worst company in the world at like keeping the like the license to their own music. Case in point, the guy who wrote the soundtracks for Sonic 1 and 2 is like the sole owner of that music, and every time they want to like remix it or use it in a future game, they have to pay him like vast sums of money. I'm
His
told.
tune was so
He's
hot
probably
they had to
coasting.
pay it. They had to pay it.
So I just thought that was so funny. Like, it's great that it's there, but like somebody probably had to give up their like Christmas bonus for
Hopefully
that.
the executive who greenlit the original Sonic design.
Yes.
Oh boy. I gotta say, on the whole, for the music, 0 out of 10. No Crush 40, no Gangsta's Paradise. Get it out of here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was all a tease.
I'm glad the tone shift with the art style happened. I appreciated the Gangster's Paradise in the trailer, but I'm glad that did not reflect.
You did
how the
not love
movie
it sincerely.
Yeah, I did.
Like Waluigi.
Oh my god. Anyway, so yeah, I don't want to step on any more musical discussion toes. Obviously, I have nothing to really contribute to that. Was there anything else anyone wanted to say about music before we move on to?
Well, it's like my only real metric is like, either did it enhance the product or do I want to listen to it afterwards? And for this movie, it was just kind of there. Like it was like fine. It served its purpose, but it didn't really do anything for me beyond that, unfortunately. And for a piece of Sonic media, I mean, I wasn't expecting this movie to have like an SA1 or like Mania level soundtrack, but
you got your
it is disappointing when a Sonic thing comes
you
out
got your
and
points
like
when
it's
it
not a great new
counted. So
soundtrack
like
to
it wasn't very.
put on my iPod.
You scored what you scored, so it was one of those things.
Yeah. I am just grateful that they actually had Sonic music in this
Right.
movie. So, I'll take what I can get, and I'm happy for hyper potions
Yeah.
So then,
and Masato
of course,
Nakamura.
the next thing to talk about is that fun little short credits animation, which I love.
Yeah, that made Trey want to buy every Sonic game
Yes.
available now on Steam.
Like as like I'm a big fan of
Don't
the
get
2Ds.
the Steam versions. They're
Well, yeah.
crap.
I like the Sonic I like is the 2D ones. I don't like the 3D ones as much. That sang to my heart so much. I was like, I love this 2D shit.
I
Give me more.
absolutely
Well,
love that they just pulled everything that he had, like everything that they had in the game, and I love the little nods to Belucifer's and ramps. That was fun.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was neat. They recreated locations from the movie using assets from the games. So I guess it really was Mirage Saloon Zone.
It makes me wonder if the Mania team worked on that, because it looked like 1-to-1 with all those
It wouldn't
models.
surprise me.
Close enough. It wasn't
Yeah,
quite
there were
exactly
there were
the
a lot
same,
of
but
things, particularly for the characters, and I mean especially. I cannot remember. Was
Sonic didn't have his correct
Was
physics and
Eggman-
weight when he bounced
was
around.
the Eggman that they used an actual sprite from one of the games, or was it a Jim Carrey sprite? I
No.
can't remember.
it was
Jim
it was
Carrey,
like
Eggman.
That's
16-bit
what I
Jim
thought.
Carrey.
But yeah,
I'm fine with this though.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah.
it was very fun.
You know, that's pretty standard for movies nowadays to have like a cool credit sequence. Detective
Yeah.
Pikachu similarly had like all of the characters from the movie like in the Ken Sugimori style, which was
Yeah.
also really cool.
Makes me wonder if he drew some of those for concept art.
I mean, he might have. I mean, like what are they paying him for?
Yeah.
If not. But yeah,
He is a creative fellow.
yes he is. So it's the only thing keeping that franchise going. But yeah, back to Sonic. I think. So are we done? Have we kind of
I mean,
touched on
mostly. We
everything?
haven't really.
I mean, it's been almost 3 hours.
This video
know.
is going to be twice as long
Yes.
as the movie it's discussing.
I mean, to be fair, Joe, that's tame for a video essay.
You know
Honestly.
what's funny? Yeah. What's funny is I was telling the guys before this, like, I don't know how long
Right.
this is going to be. I don't have that much to say. Turns out that was a load of crap.
Well, it turns out that was a lie. Anyhow, I think that the last thing really left to talk about, and we've sort of spliced in talking about it a little bit, is the
Yeah.
Tails scene at the end. And to me,
Yes.
that had the same, like, a level of excitement amp as, like, the scenes at the end of Marvel movies where it's like,
Yeah.
like Vision will return in the next movie. Like,
Sonic, oh my god. I swear to god, if Sonic becomes like the replacement for the MCU.
I would be
Yes!
so here
Let it
for
happen.
that. I would be here for 10 Sonic movies where they keep
we
introducing more
really are
characters.
in the Berenstain
God,
universe.
please give me, like, keep going until you have to use Mighty the Armadillo and Beam the Dynamite.
Yes!
Just keep going.
Mighty the Okay, being the Dynamite, that is a suitably
You know what that
obscure
means,
Sonic
right?
character.
It means coming this summer, Big the Cat.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Get John
Dude,
St. John.
you know what?
Get John St. John to keep voicing Big the Cat.
But he hates it.
You know what
What's
that also
that?
means? Vector the
Oh,
Crocodile,
you know what else I
baby!
want? I want the next movie to have Knuckles, and I want its soundtrack to be composed entirely by 100p. Please.
Yes.
Oh man.
I need it.
I'm black, I'm black, I'm
Hopefully they
black,
give him-
blacker than black.
Hopefully they give him more than an afternoon to write those raps this time, which, according to an interview with Find the Computer Room, was how they turned out the
Right.
way they did.
Oh god.
Because like Sonic Team basically made him write them and record them like on
So-
the day.
All I will say
Jeez.
is that it has been confirmed that the next movie will really up its miles per hour.
Yes.
All right. I think
According to
I
Nick.
think we've suitably exhausted as much as we can get out of this 90-minute movie in 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yes.
We need to banish this recording to the Mushroom Zone.
Mushroom Zone.
Where no one will ever
except for
listen to
Jim
it.
Carrey.
That's how he went insane, is from listening to this. Oh my god.
All right.
So we're responsible for whatever the second Sonic movie
And I
comes
will
out
take that
as.
to my grave.
God. Oof. I don't know if I can handle this
Well,
burden.
If anyone stuck with us for this whole 2 hours, I appreciate you. I'm sure we all do.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Thank you for listening.
thank you.
Unless you skip forward
Thank-
like a badnik.
Yeah. Only badniks.
Thank you,
Only badniks
hypothetically.
do this.
Thank you, hypothetical person who may or may who probably
And
doesn't.
anyone
exist,
who skipped
but, you know,
forward, let
man
me
can
give you a
dream.
message in your language. It's about time you
Mike,
cross
thank
the
you.
road and head home, pal. All right.
See, that was why I brought up
Yeah.
Mean Bean Machine earlier. So Nick, it was the plant for that joke to land.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sincerely, I'm not sure what the next movie we'll talk about is. If we'll do another long ass podcast like this or an honest to god like movie commentary, but I guess we'll see. So
It'll be-
yeah.
It's this show will kind of be like leap year. Like every time there's a Sonic
Yeah.
movie, just the next episode of this podcast will come out.
Are we only gonna do commentary or reviews of the
Yeah,
Sonic
that gives
movie?
us a perfect
Yes.
fodder for a podcast name because Sonic means
like not even-
sound, means audio.
Not even other video game
Nope,
movies,
just
just
Sonic.
Sonic. God.
Dude, I got the name. If we do
What
a
a-
podcast, I got it. Ear Check Games.
Oh God. Oh, thank you. Okay. Well. All right.
The slow clap. That's how we. That's how we put a fork in it. It's
I
done.
determined that he
It's
deserved
time
one
for
more.
us to say goodbye.
4 slow claps out of
So
7.
until next time.
That's my score for the Sonic movie. 4 slow
That's
claps out of
fair.
7. Perfectly
Okay.
average.
Until next time, I've been Nick, and I hope to continue to be.
I've been Trey.
I've been Ethan, and I hope to be in more Gear Shit Game episodes soon. Maybe.
Subtle.
And I'm Joe, and I'm glad I got to go last. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Night, everybody.
Bye.